pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a fan. Hooray for Hollywood! When you're terrific, if you're even good. Where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck, you may be Donald Duck. Hooray for Hollywood!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is the Rattlegion Broadcasting Network premier movie review podcast, Damn You Hollywood. And here's your host. I love him, I love him, I love him. He's my calendar girl each and every day of the year, Robert Winfrey. Yay!
Wow. That might be the fastest you've ever sung / recited lyrics on any show you've ever done.
Well, I didn't want to go through the whole... I can if you want to. I
God,
love my
please
calendar
don't.
girl. Don't you like Neil Sedaka?
No.
You start the year off fine. February, you're my little Valentine, Robert
I
Winfrey.
know the song, Mark.
March, I'm going to march you down the aisle. April, you're the Easter bunny when you smile. See, I got prepared this time, and I actually decided what I was going to run with to open the show and looked it up. That way I had it, because as I learned today when I did my neurology test, I have poor short-term memory, and that's why I mess up.
I could have told you that.
Oh, yeah, of course. You've been doing this with me long enough. Lucky I remember my own frickin' name, or to put on pants in the morning.
Pants are the devil.
Pants are the devil. How are you doing, sir?
A little sore, a little annoyed at having to see this movie, a little annoyed with my dogs, because somehow, despite all the best engineering I could manage, my beagle still finds a way to get into the cat food.
Terrific.
Your beagle's just upset that he's not getting immortalized as a Pokemon, like Eddie is.
She doesn't care.
Oh, sorry, she.
She's now just fat and happy and laying all splayed out not too far from me. Like, look, behold the fruits of my labor.
Speaking of
she
she,
eats so much.
Speaking of she, could we introduce a third person and move on with this?
I was thinking about dragging it out for another couple of minutes just to avoid getting to the actual movie. But sure, Alexis Hana back once again because... I don't know. Like, again, there's a gravitate... Well, I occasionally joke that this show sucks so much, once you get within proximity, you can't escape the gravity of it. So you're now stuck in our orbit.
Yeah, I guess kind of am, but I don't mind.
How you doing, Alexis?
I'm doing good. I actually just saw this movie earlier today. I didn't get a chance to see it over the weekend. So, managed to catch a matinee today. Walked out saying, God, the things I suffer through for you people.
My question
Welcome to
is,
my life.
My question is, your husband saw it. Now, he being from the Soviet Union, did he understand the movie?
Okay.
In Soviet Russia, Phoenix watches you.
Damn it, Robin. That's funnier than anything I was going to say. You just ruined it. Okay, first of all, no, he didn't go to the movies with me. We were supposed to... He ended up... we were going to go last night, but he ended up having to work late. And I told him that I needed to see it for the show today, so he said, fine, go without me. Secondly, for the millionth time, my husband is not from Russia.
Okay.
He's never going to let that go.
Nope.
So you know.
No, I know he's not.
You've been branded with a gimmick on the Rattlegion Broadcasting Network. Wear it with pride, woman.
Yeah, so have you, Jigglypuff.
Believe me, I've got nothing but brands and tattoos and you name it. All right, Robert, let's do this thing.
All right, if we have to. Okay. And you know what? I was down on this, but if I had to suffer through it, I am damn well going to talk about it. So, okay, let's move on to this. And then I can excise it from my brain. Forcibly, if necessary. We are reviewing today X-Men Dark Phoenix. If nothing else, Fox is really, really good about sending franchises out with the biggest impact crater possible.
In the defense of this movie being the finale of the X-Men franchise, that was never what it was meant to be. This was meant to be, I think, in the grand scheme of things, this was actually meant to be a two-parter. but between the sale to Disney...
It should have been in some respects, because this kills me about just the fundamental misinterpretation of the Phoenix Saga. It's two parts. There's the Phoenix Saga, wherein Jean dies. A bunch of years pass, and then we get the Dark Phoenix Saga. And she dies again, because Jean Grey.
So there was a lot of behind-the-scene machinations and problems with the production of this thing, and then there was the little problem of Fox being bought by Disney, the X-Men returning to the MCU, and Kevin Feige going, as far as I'm concerned, no one's made an X-Men movie ever, and we'll bring them in at some point. At which point, they had this thing to release, and they re-shot the entire ending for altogether different reasons, and that became it. You know, despite what has been said about the movie, the reality is this was not meant to be the finale, but it became the finale because it had to be.
I agree with Robert. This really should have been two movies, because Fox seems to never understand the concept that, yes, the Dark Phoenix is not the only part of the Phoenix storyline. And let's face it, the only person that they're bringing over from Fox and letting him keep his casting role is Ryan Reynolds.
You know, no, they'll let Hugh Jackman back if Hugh Jackman wants back in.
Which he
That's
doesn't.
true. Hugh Jackman has openly said that the only way he'll go back to playing Wolverine is if they let him into an Avengers movie.
And
Although
they better.
Keanu Reeves wants to play Wolverine.
No.
I think that we've got about 10 years, I think, before a proper X-Men movie in the MCU. Given
Much less than that.
no,
Yeah.
They have movies plotted out till 2022 for what we're calling Phase 4. None of them are X-Men movies, unless you're counting the New Mutants, but we're not.
No, okay. No one is counting the New Mutants.
At this point, I think the only thing that's depending on the New Mutants is the bargain bin at Best Buy.
It's not even hitting that. Like, this is going straight to Disney Plus, where we'll just take up data space in the cloud.
Yeah, I have a funny feeling the space on the calendar that it's currently occupying is a big ruse, and that it's actually going to end up debuting on Disney Plus or Hulu. But
no, I mean this in all seriousness. I think that now that they have those, they're going to wind up shuffling around a few of those other properties that they're looking at. And again, there's a lot that are just going to come out as currently kind of scheduled. But I think there's a reason we haven't got a big, press release event or what have you at, a Gen Con or something, or a Comic Con to announce all the upcoming stuff, because now that they have this, they're rethinking a bunch of stuff and retooling it.
Well, the announcement's supposed to come... I heard San Diego Comic-Con, and now the latest I'm hearing, I think, is D23. Alexis, do I have that name right? Is it D23?
I believe so.
Okay.
That is usually the big trailer drop. I remember that because I think it was when Civil War's trailer dropped. They have a very strict no cell phones, no recording devices of any kind at the premiere, and yet somehow it still got bootlegged. I remember seeing it on YouTube going, sweet Jesus, who sold their soul to get a camera in there?
So the bottom line is this. I don't think you're not seeing any of these before 2022. Maybe after 2022, and that's less than 10 years. 2023, 2024, 2025. Maybe in that 3-year period. But that's still a ways off. Now we're talking 4 to 6 years from now. Maybe before you see an X-Men thing. There's other ideas being bandied about. They're talking about putting Deadpool in the third Spider-Man movie.
Oh God, no.
So I mean, who knows?
Plus, there's the talk about them bringing in Fantastic Four as early as 2022.
We're going to get Fantastic Four before they figure out how the X-Men fit into the universe.
Well,
absolutely.
I was going to say that. I mean, that's a rumor at this point. That I know that made the rounds one of the last couple of days on the internet. But the last I had read on it was that's still a rumor. But that has the likeliest. That's kind of the Spider-Man of this thing. They jury rig Spider-Man into the schedule and move shit around to accommodate their deal with Sony. I think that's the role that Fantastic Four is going to play. Is that they had a schedule. It has Eternals, Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Doctor Strange, Black Panther.
I mean, a few of those don't actually matter. They're just, and when I say don't actually matter, I don't mean that they're going to be bad.
Right.
But like, Black Widow doesn't matter. Her standalone movie is largely material.
I was going to say this next upcoming phase is really like ground zero as far as, and like very little movement as far as an overall narrative is going to happen between now and 2022. I think I'd be curious to see what the event film is going to be at the end of this. But where I was going with this was they've got there's already a bunch of movies in some level of production already, but they can still jam in there a Fantastic Four space. The thing that I don't know if people realize is that Marvel announced like the next 8 years of Marvel Cinematic Universe movies before the Fox deal was finalized. You figure if they run Fox as kind of like an independent, like Pixar, as like an independent studio, they can still produce more Marvel movies under the Fox banner, or at least with,
If I had to guess, they'll probably let the Fox banner hold. When I say Deadpool and other like R-related content,
right.
I think that's what they might do. But any of the big tentpole stuff is absolutely just going to be under the Disney Marvel banner.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like what they did with The Nightmare Before Christmas and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It's like it's not technically Disney. It's what's the name of that side studio? Trying to think.
Was that Hollywood Pictures?
Hang on.
Because I know that was theirs for a while.
Hang on. I'll grab the DVD and I'll confirm this. Eddie, get out of my way.
I want to say TriStar, but I don't think that's right.
I'm trying to remember.
Anyway.
Well, you're pulling up that detail. It's entirely possible the production and marketing is basically going to be everything that is a Marvel property is part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but the Marvel proper studio is working on one set of movies, and Fox is going to work on another set of movies, and then they can take up more space on a calendar. So,
they're also just not going to let Fox touch any of the big properties anymore after they have colossally.
Well, I don't know if that's
screwed up so many of them.
I don't know if that's totally true. I mean, look.
Are you letting anyone at Fox have anything to do with the Fantastic Four?
Yeah, but you're talking about Fox pre-Disney. A lot of those people got laid off, and you know that anybody like here's what I'm saying. I don't think it's like actual Fox. I think it just gets labeled Fox. You know what I mean? It's like again, it's like Pixar. Pixar is its own studio. These people are Disney employees, though. I think Fox is going to operate in basically the same way. Like, there's going to be oversight by Disney proper, and there's obviously, in concerning Marvel stuff, there's going to be oversight by Marvel. But it operates as its own, like, independent label, basically, to talk about music. Where you have the big music label, then you have all these, like, little independent labels underneath that umbrella, but they're still part of that company. And the people that work there are employees to the parent company. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
So I think, so just to bring this back around again, then we can move forward. I think you'll see X-Men movies. You'll probably see them as part of the Fox label. If they're going with a more like adult-oriented theme, but they're Disney employees. They'll probably move people into that studio from Disney proper.
And it's Touchstone Pictures.
I was close.
All right. So moving on to the actual movie, which is
we have
to.
I was going to say I much prefer talking about studio stuff.
No, I mean, again, I think to kind of my last point here, I think the reason you're likely to see Fantastic Four sooner is that is the deadest of dead IPs at the moment after that last Abomination. Like, that movie.
Has Josh Trank gotten any work since then?
I don't know. I don't care.
And I've actually just pulled up IMDb because, it's funny. I grabbed my Nightmare Before Christmas DVD because I knew that was released under Disney's associate studio. And I was like, okay, it's got to be here on the back of it. And then, no, it says Walt Disney. I'm like, oh, of course, now that it's a success, Walt Disney wants to make sure that, it's all of them. So I said, screw it, and I grabbed my computer and pulled up an IMDb. Okay, Josh Trank, writer of Fantastic Four.
I was going to say, because of his behavior on the Fantastic Four set, I mean, that movie obviously is terrible, but it's not all Josh Trank's fault.
That is the worst movie you have made me review.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, he is writing to... Wait, did this already come out? What year is that? Hang on. Okay, he's got two things coming up here that are in the announced. One is a movie that he wrote and directed called Fonzo, which I guess is about Al Capone.
They're in post-production for that.
Okay, yeah. Oh, Tom Hardy's playing Al Capone. And he is writing but not directing The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt.
I would have bet real money that the only work he was getting was porn, so good for Josh Trank.
Well, I mean, Fonzo is being done by... Jeez, what studio's even doing this?
Hang on, I'll take a look.
Nobody. Like, nobody. This is all, like, small, independently funded crap. That all of who probably only signed on because, hey, Tom Hardy.
Well, he got a band apart.
I mean, the production company for this...
A Band Apart, that's Quentin Tarantino, isn't it?
Uh-huh. Looks like he's one of the studios producing it.
Well, that would make sense.
Well, Tarantino will do stuff like... I mean,
yeah.
Tarantino is responsible for Eli Roth at this point.
I was going to say, Quentin Tarantino probably saw what happened with Josh Trank on Fantastic Four. It's like, hey, I hear you're a fuckface. Want to make a film for me? So...
That sounds about right.
It should be noted that until this movie Fonzo comes out, no, he has not done anything since Fantastic Four, and that includes writing, directing, editing, producing, or anything else that he's listed under.
It's amazing. Like, James Gunn gets a lot of credit for for being kind of an artist and an avant-garde type of guy and everything. And people, he obviously gained his most notoriety from doing the Guardians of the Galaxy films and making those hits. But he has no problem working within the studio format. For God's sakes, Warner Brothers picked him up to basically rework their DCEU on top of rebooting the Suicide Squad. And Disney brought him back for Guardians 3. So it's like, so the excuse of, the working under the the bright lights and big city of the studio and the pressure that imbues upon a person is what broke him. And it's like, no, I'm pretty sure Josh Trank's just a crazy person.
Speaking of directors, though, this is interesting. I pulled up the director of Dark Phoenix.
That jackass.
Okay, this is interesting. He's more well known as a producer. He has got his hands.
Who'd have thought?
Okay, well, here's the thing. He's produced several films. A lot of them actually pretty decent. He's been a writer for a lot of films. He wrote, let's see here. Well,
he wrote The Last Stand.
He did. He wrote Jumper, the Sherlock Holmes. This. He wrote This Means War. Yikes. And he also wrote X-Men Apocalypse. He apparently was one of the screenplay writers for Days of Futures Past.
We need to have it like... Sorry, go ahead. Finish up. Remind me to circle back to Days of Future Past.
Yeah, he's written a few episodes of Star Wars Rebels, Twilight Zone. Oh, dear God, they're remaking Logan's Run, and he's writing it.
Terrible.
The guy's a genius. I don't know why we don't do more of his stuff.
Shut up.
No.
But the only thing he's directed before this was an episode of the new version of The Twilight Zone, the one that Jordan Peele launched.
Okay. He also, and this is where we kind of get into the behind-the-scenes crap from Days of Future Past. He did kind of, not as much as this example I'm going to cite, but for those unfamiliar with just how much of Tombstone Kurt Russell ghost directed, which is to say 90% of it, same kind of thing, because the director for Days of Future Past was just in and out and in and out and in. Who was that? Was that Brett Ratner?
No, that was Toby.
I'd rather it was Toby, but I need to double check who directed that now.
Hang on, I got it right here. I don't think it was Ratner. Singer. It was Singer.
Singer. Thank you. Singer was just
wrong director accused of doing icky stuff.
Whatever. they're all. I assume everyone in Hollywood is some
RLM is officially referring to the X-Men movies under Singer and Ratner as the pervert era, which I think is really funny.
I'm glad you find amusement in that.
Well, it's terrible what they said or did or whatever. I honestly don't know. I do, but I find them referring to an entire era of movies as the pervert era to be funny.
Yeah, that's also referred to as, the entirety. You could also say that about the entirety of humanity. Like, what stupidity is this? Boy, pervert sure did really spring up in the mid-'80s.
Yes, this is a new thing. Poor treatment of women in pervertism is a relatively recent thing, Robert. Don't you know that? Check, for God's sakes, check Twitter every once in a while.
I can't express to you how much I'm rooting for your cancer at this moment.
Damn. Okay, so, but
anyway, the point being, Singer was so sporadic about the actual direction and production of that movie that Kinberg did a fair bit of ghost direction for it, along with a couple of other people. And that Days of Future Past came out as well as it did, with all the kind of behind the scenes production stuff that's come out recently, is a freaking miracle.
We have now been at this for 20 minutes and haven't talked thing one about the plot of this movie.
That's because no one cares.
Well, I just find it really interesting that, because from what I've read, apparently Jennifer Lawrence was ready to retire the role after Apocalypse. She supposedly stayed on because she wanted to work with Kinberg.
I wonder how that worked. That did not seem to have worked out well for her.
But again, I'm sitting there going, he's produced a ton of movies, a lot of them good, a lot of them well known, and a lot of TV shows. So
there's a lot of great producers who are just not good writers or good directors. There's a lot of great writers who suck at direction.
But again,
I just find it interesting. I'm sorry, go ahead.
We don't know what this guy's total vision was for this film when he was basically handed a time bomb. Look, the problem with Dark Phoenix, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here. We have a format, but the real problem with Dark Phoenix is that this was a shit show almost from the beginning, and then by the end of it, it wasn't even the studio's property anymore. Like between this and New Mutants became a case of, well, we've already committed the money and time to this. Let's just get it out there. We'll see how it does. At the very least, after they spend how many billions on buying Fox, we can take it as a write-off. We've said that now about Disney on a couple of things, that for every Avengers Endgame or Avengers Infinity War, there's the Big Friendly Giant or something. Disney has taken its fair share of fucking baths. I'm sure there's, at this point, the accountants are just when they're doing the books or whatever, we need a couple of films to bomb. And they were like, boy, have we got one for you. Have you heard of the Fox slate of X-Men films? So like I said, I guarantee you that's the only reason why they haven't committed New Mutants to Disney Plus or Hulu yet. Because they were like, yeah, we'll take a bath on a couple of these to avoid fucking taxes at this point. We kind of have to. So it's you're talking about the craft and quality of Dark Phoenix. I can't lay all this at Simon Kinberg. He was kind of handed this really dysfunctional project, and he made the best of it that he could. Now, some of it...
Okay, can I blame the actual writing and directorial faults on him then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not gonna fault you on that one, because I was watching this movie. I had heard that this guy was not a very well-known director. And I'm watching a lot of the scenes going, wow, these are some mistakes that I don't think most film students would make.
Yeah, no, there are some things I absolutely hated about this movie in terms of craft. And that you do have to lay it at his feet, because at the end of the day, he was the director. But, again, to take it to that next step, to be like, well, he's a bad director... You can't judge him. You can't judge the totality of his ability based on this film. You can only judge this film, and this film sucks dick. Go on, Robert.
All right, so moving on to the film proper. I almost don't want to do this because this is the most oddly put together movie And
We've
I
been
don't.
beating around the bush for almost half an hour. We need to get on with it.
The movie opens with a flashback to Jean Grey as an 8-year-old inadvertently killing her mother, and then being taken in by Charles Xavier's School for the Gifted because her father thinks she's a witch. I don't know.
She does believe that she killed them both.
Yeah, she thinks she killed them both. We flash forward to the world in the aftermath of the Insabanur incident, or X-Men Apocalypse. And the X-Men, against some better judgment of a few characters, at kind of the urging of Xavier, go into space to save astronauts who have been attacked by a semi-conscious cosmic entity that is masquerading as a solar flare, and it only gets dumber from here, folks.
Nice one.
Because it works so well in the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I've actually argued in favor of that in a couple of different ways, but not the time or the place. They successfully rescue the astronauts, but Jean, in only the barest of homages to how she actually is infected with the Phoenix Force in the original source material, is bombarded by this semi-sentient cosmic entity, power, goopy thing in space. She prevents it from attacking the rest of the X-Men, draws all of the energy into herself, blows up the space shuttle, should be dead, is not dead because she's now Captain Marvel. And can breathe. She was. The craziest thing about the timing of this is this was actually done before Captain Marvel. They just delayed the release for this movie by like 2.5 years.
Well, then they had to reshoot it because apparently there were too many similarities to Captain Marvel.
I have a theory about what the ending is that they had to can because of that, and I'll get to it when we get to that part of the movie. Anyway, she's not dead. They come back to Earth, and Jennifer Lawrence gives some of the worst dialogue readings of her entire career, aimed at James McAvoy, because women, apparently. She wants to be done with things. Beast, who Nicholas Hoult gives some pretty piss-poor readings during this movie as well. These are not bad actors. I mean, Jennifer Lawrence clearly in this movie does not care at all. Like, she might have had contractual write-ins like, okay, I get to say how many takes we have per shot because I don't want to be here any longer than necessary and get that makeup away from me. What do you think I am? Nicholas Hoult convinces her to stay, except not really because immediately another crisis kicks in, so his pseudo-guilt is just a terrible subplot. But Jean starts reacting oddly to having this unbelievably powerful force that is badly defined by all parties, even the ones that actually know what it is. She starts losing control. She blows with random bursts of telekinetic energy. She knocks people around. She starts having horrible flashbacks to when I lose control, I break things and they can't be fixed. And oh, woe is me, I must become emo. There was something happening concurrently with this. Oh, yeah, the aliens. I told you it only got dumber. The shape-shifting aliens, because our budget won't allow us to actually show them in their real form more than for about 5 seconds at a time, show up and they massacre a bunch of humans. They take over. They assume their appearance, and they are tracking this cosmic force. And they are now stalking Jean Grey. Jean discovers the mental Xavier put up a bunch of blocks around her mind to try and stabilize it, and blocked off some traumatic memories, such as her killing her parents, well, her mother, and then her father, again, thinking she's a witch for, having magic powers. I mean, really, I say that sarcastically, but his stance is not the most illogical. I mean, he doesn't actually think she's a witch. He just goes, I can't deal with this. Please help. Xavier goes, sure, I can help. This is this is what I do. Like, this is my entire shtick. Yes, I'll help you. She flies to meet him, and she discovers that, again, he's actually alive, and she gets pissed at Xavier for lying to her. She flies because she can do that now. She flies to her father. Xavier implores the X-Men to go, and we're going to talk her down. We're going to bring her home. We're going to figure out what's wrong. We'll handle this in a rational manner. And her father's like, yeah, I kind of gave you up because you killed my wife, and I just couldn't look at you anymore. It is one of the most tactless scenes ever. Like, that guy... he must have read it that way because he just wanted to get off set, because it's read badly and it's badly written. Just please don't let anyone recognize me when I audition for other stuff in the future. She reacts badly to this, knocks him out, gets into a fight with the X-Men, wherein she badly injures Quicksilver and kills Jennifer Lawrence. There was much rejoicing. She then flies to Genosha, the island that Magneto has kind of been given, and he's got a mutant sanctuary going on, and they're kind of living more or less off the grid, and they're just like, you know what, there's a lot of problems out there, we just kind of want to be here and make things work and, you know, do the whole separate but equal thing. The United States government, the army, shows up because Jean attacked a couple of police officers during that standoff with the X-Men, and she's now wanted, and Magneto throws her off the island because you brought the heat down on us, don't you see? I can't let you bring the heat here. And she takes off and wanders despondently in the rain, like you do when you're an emotional quasi-teenager having an emotional breakdown. Hank and Charles Xavier argue because I imagine Hank is the stand-in for the director in this situation, because Simon Kinberg has this bizarre obsession with turning Charles Xavier into a villain. I mean, this goes back, he wrote The Last Stand, which we talked a little bit about, where, I mean, like, the first 20 minutes of that movie are just designed to undermine every bit of goodwill Xavier built up over the two previous movies.
I don't have to explain myself to you, you murdering Logan, you.
He apparently wanted to turn Charles Xavier into an alcoholic.
Okay, this guy, yeah, and you wonder why I'm just down on everything this guy will ever do from a creative standpoint.
I mostly just want to know what the hell they were thinking about with the sudden flip-flop of how the public views the X-Men. Xavier apparently has a hotline to the freaking president, and the president asks him for help. They go to space, they come back, they're getting cheers. There's people with these signs saying, I love you, Jean, marry me, Cyclops, and all, you know, just total fan stuff. And then after Jean attacks the cops, there's a news report saying, we're going to put up mutant internment camps. It's like, what the hell?
We'll talk about that.
There's the reaction is so wildly disproportionate, it's not even funny, and they don't even... Which I could believe if they appropriately set it up, but they don't, and because this is...
Or explained it in any rational way, because there's a rational explanation for how we got from your rock star superheroes to your some of you are way too fucking dangerous. But again, this is... I have a major complaint about a lot of things where they don't bother to explain anything, so just finish the plot line.
Yeah, this is a... You're going to hear us say this a lot. This is a badly written movie.
Yeah,
that it is.
So, Jean tries to drink her woes away by making other people see her as an old person rather than an underage girl. Jessica Chastain shows up, who is the... I forget even how to pronounce her character's name. She's the head alien.
I think it's Vuk.
They always say it like once or twice, and they always say it in the alien language, so you never actually... You don't really hear it as the name alone.
Yeah, I'm going with Vuk of the Dabari.
Okay, whatever. Jessica Chastain shows up.
I call it the albino of the not quite Groots.
She is totally not the White Queen, okay? Which, there was very clearly in the draft of this at some point a Hellfire Club reunion that they just decided to try and keep some of the aesthetic around for.
Did they kill the White Queen in First Class? Because I don't remember.
It was Emma Frost, and no, she didn't actually die.
No, but didn't they... I remember in Days of Future Past that there's that scene where they're all on the plane and Magneto starts making them go into a kind of a semi-tailspin, and he starts naming off mutants that we have to assume have been killed, and Emma's name was one of them. So I'd like
Well,
like to think
he
that
listed
Emma
a lot of missing mutants, some of which we do find out, we confirm later, were killed by Trask, or not Trask.
Yeah, no, it was Trask.
Oh, it was Trask. I'm getting my versions of that story confused, so apologies. There are some that they confirm were killed by Trask. We didn't see Emma confirmed dead because I don't know if they had potential plans for that character in the future or whatnot, but so she might very well be dead, but anyway. So she shows up and tells Jean, all that power, all that anger you've got, yeah, I can help you harness it. Like, there's too many references I could make to that whole scene, so I don't know which one to choose. They give her the brief lowdown on, what you actually have inside of you is this cosmic entity that is the spark of existence for the universe. It destroys, it creates, and we can teach you to harness it if you, with the subtext of if you let us help you wipe out all the people on this planet so we can repopulate it with our own. Hank goes to talk with Magneto because Magneto has an actual human spy network, whereas Xavier is reliant on Cerebro. And he wants to kill Jean because he's heartbroken over the death of Mystique, as is Magneto. Sorry, I blanked there for a minute on Michael Fassbender. So they all show up in New York. They get into a bit of a brawl. Jean is just too powerful to be killed at this point, but when it's revealed that, the aliens they don't just want to help you, they actually want to kill all of humanity and, again, turn the Earth into a new planet for their people after their planet was destroyed by the Phoenix Force. She kind of goes, you know what, not cool with that. But they all kind of get suppressed and taken in by the government, who put them on a transport train, which is then, summarily enough, attacked by the totally not Groots. Big action scene where the X-Men do a decent job of holding off everyone except Jessica Chastain, who managed to absorb some percentage of the Phoenix Force from Jean.
She got 12%.
I mean, I was going to make a 1% joke, but sure.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 99%.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah,
1,
sorry,
2,
not
3,
catching the reference.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 99%. That would be Ministry, 99%ers.
Well, we got Mark to sing on this podcast, so mission accomplished there.
Yep.
I mean,
Moving
look,
on.
I was about to make a Mob Psycho 100 reference just because I didn't understand what you were saying.
Everyone check off your Mark Sings on your bingo card.
Yes, yeah, you made that. I just made a joke about the first Avengers movie.
You almost got... Yeah, again, I was going to do a Mob Psycho.
Oh my God, get on with this.
Oh, so you can... No. You disrupt everything on occasion, and then all of a sudden...
After the 8th time one of you says I was going to make a joke, yes, I'm calling quits to this bit. Move on.
All right, no more singing for you.
I'll be the judge of that.
Anyway, Jessica Chastain shows up. She and Jean fight. Jean just disintegrates a bunch of people, but struggles to actually contain the Phoenix Force, eventually flies her and Jessica Chastain into outer space, blows her up there, presumably dies her, in her own words, evolves beyond the need for corporeal form. We get a flash of the Phoenix Force. The Xavier School for the Gifted is renamed the Jean Grey Memorial School. Xavier retires, leaves the school in the care of Hank because, sure, he's the most qualified. He retires to Paris, where he and Magneto kind of reconnect, and we close with them setting up a chessboard at a cafe in Paris, while the Phoenix Force flies somewhere out in outer space, but still visible. That has to be closer. For as much time as has passed between those two scenes, she didn't seem to get any further than the moon.
Yeah, that looked like just re-entering the atmosphere distance, like when you would see a meteor just suddenly break through the sky.
I had a friend of mine, right on the board. You know, I pretty much made my feelings known about the movie as soon as I came out of it. I said, don't waste your money going to see Dark Phoenix unless you do a review show with me. Go see Endgame again. It's money better well spent. And so somebody wrote back to me, and they were like, "Oh, I saw it today. I don't know, you know, it wasn't that bad." And I thought about that, and I thought about some of the stuff that it was. Please let me get through this thought, Robert. And I thought about that, and I thought about the people who I was reading about who liked the '98 Godzilla. They had no frame of reference. They're not film critics. They don't think and ruminate about film the way that people like we do. They are there to be strictly entertained, and so the movie has to have one major accomplishment. It can't, you know, it has to be entertaining to them. And then they equate, that's where I'm going with this, they equate good, like quality good, with entertaining. We don't. We make a point, to a very big point, to separate personal enjoyment from quality craft. It's one of the major tenets of this particular review show. So I get where people who see Dark Phoenix and the '98 Godzilla and any number of movies out there that are craft terrible, but are also entertaining. Because I'll tell you what, this movie moves at such a breakneck speed. You could be convinced, if you're anyone but Robert, that you're watching a good movie until you actually sit and think about it. And you're not, kind of, as Robert likes to point out about me, blinded by shiny things.
Look, in fairness, that's not limited to you. Like, you just, all the people you just referenced, and look, I'm going to cop to this. The '98 Godzilla is a bit of a guilty pleasure for me.
Woo!
It is.
Messy.
Look, you will never hear me defend any element of that movie at all. It's all one or two minor exceptions, like minor craft points that I think are loosely defensible. But on the whole, it is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. But I rewatched it a lot, especially when I was young and stupid and didn't know better.
Right.
And it still serves as pretty decent background noise if you just want to have something on in the background that doesn't matter, but is a pretty decent gauge for how much time has gone by.
So back to Dark Phoenix. Look, I could absolutely believe people watched this movie and had a good time. And, you know, if you're just there to watch a superhero action movie, there's, from about the time that she's in the city, where Jessica Chastain, you know, tells her about the Phoenix, to pretty much the end of the movie, is one long action sequence. That train sequence goes on forever. And there's a lot of action. And if you enjoy watching people get killed, you know, then this movie's for you. So, like, I get it.
I object to your qualification there. I love watching people die in creative ways, and this movie was not for me.
Terrific.
See, I prefer watching people die in creative ways when they actually have a reaction to it.
When half of it doesn't take place off screen.
As I was saying, the problem, but again, like, I get why people, you know, like this person who wrote to me was like, yeah, it was fine. Yeah, if you don't think about it and you don't analyze it and you just kind of watch this long, extended action sequence, I get where people are coming from. Here's the thing, though. Once I started to think about the movie and I started replaying it in my head, I'm like, wow, there are massive gaps of characterization in this movie alone that make it terrible in my mind. And so that's kind of where I want to start with this.
There's a similar phenomenon that occurs with one of my brothers and X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Okay.
Whenever he thinks about that movie, just remembers all the interactions between Hugh Jackman and Liev Schreiber.
Right.
Which are, in fairness to that movie, which is largely terrible.
Right.
That pairing, those two, are gold. No joke, no silliness, no memery. Liev Schreiber is a great Sabretooth, and he and Hugh Jackman play off of each other exactly the way that I think Wolverine and Sabretooth should be played off of each other.
I think that was one of my defenses in the on trial for that was that...
I mean, that's it. Like, that's the only thing you can possibly defend. Well, the other thing I defend about it is I get to watch Ryan Reynolds die horribly, and he spends a bunch of the movie not actually talking, so good.
You know, I'll agree with you on that, Robert. I actually wouldn't mind seeing Liev Schreiber and Hugh Jackman pair up in another movie. The two actors do work well together.
you were gonna. I want to give you the chance because we tend to mansplain all over you. So you've tried to get a word in edgewise. So before I get into all the characterization problems I had with this movie and the lack of any kind of rational explanation for some of the character choices, go ahead and say what you were going to say when I started talking about people just enjoy a good action flick.
Okay, for the record, I don't believe in the word mansplaining. It's just being no, seriously, it's being condescending, which you weren't. I just unfortunately kept thinking you were done talking because you tend to take deep breaths between sentences. So I apologize. But no, it's just being condescending. I don't believe in putting in a special term just because it's a man doing that to a woman.
But we're woke on this podcast, or at least I try to be.
Ark. So help me.
Oh my god! I'm sorry, we're just the tone in your voice. There was like 43 flavors of nope in that one word.
You were saying, madam.
Okay. No, what I was trying to say earlier about the whole thing with the aliens, what pissed me off the most, first of all, that, yeah, they were the not quite Groots. That fight scene on the train, it killed me because it was sort of good action, I guess. I frankly think that Kinberg doesn't know if he wants to use a tripod or go handheld on certain shots, because there were certain parts where I'm sitting there going, is someone playing with a projector up there? Or are they seriously going handheld on this? The scene where Jean and Magneto are talking in his bunker, his house, whatever the hell that thing was, it was shaking. And I'm like, he's going handheld. Why is he going? Why are we doing shaky cam on this? It's so weird. But my biggest problem with the not quite Groots is the fact that they do not show any emotion. And I guess part of that is that they're so badass that they're not afraid or anything. But it takes all the excitement and adrenaline out of the fight. You have a scene where Magneto blocks a guy's punch with a piece of metal, then bends the metal so it would essentially break the guy's arm in two, and then tosses him back. And the dude never reacts to it.
I believe the reason why is because aliens ain't got no feelings.
But it's so annoying. Why are we supposed to care about these characters if they're not showing fear, pain, resistance, adrenaline, or anything?
Because they're the stormtroopers for this.
Pretty much. I mean, there's a scene where Jessica Chastain's character is walking towards Jean, and Magneto has got all these guns shooting at her. Just like
that was so great.
That was hilarious that he got every single gun going, and she's not even flinching. It was so boring.
All right, I want to take this kind of bit by bit here. So, Jennifer Lawrence's makeup looks like hot garbage in this movie. Like,
okay, they never explained that. Why did she look so different? What did they do?
Because in the contract this time she said, I will be in the makeup chair for 3 hours a day, no more, no less.
If you look at how she looks, like I said, I just watched Apocalypse. But if you look at her in First Class, in Days of Future Past, and Apocalypse, and then again how, oh gosh, I can't remember the actress's name. So Rebecca Romaine Stamos looks in the first three X-Men movies. She isn't just a Smurf with bright red hair, like she is in this one. She's got like the dots or petals or whatever. She's got these things on her skin that give it some depth. Give it some depth. Give her. Make it look. Oh, help me out here, Alexis. What's the word I'm looking for here?
Like scales. Well, it works because it changes. It looks like snake skin scales kind of flipping over in a way. So that and I'll go ahead and say it. She may not have looked the way she did in the comics, but when I first saw Mystique in the very first X movie, I applauded their vision for that. I'm like, that's not the way I thought they were going to go, but that looks awesome.
No, they did a great job with her costuming. It's one of the real high points of those movies is her costuming looks, and they follow through with it with the with First Class, Days of Future Past, and Apocalypse. And this one, and to Robert's point, with the joke, yeah, it really did look like they were just like we need to save money on costumes and special effects here. Fuck it, just paint her blue. And hopefully no one cares or notices, because God knows we don't pay attention to continuity with these movies. So it was just the first thing that jumped out at me, and I saw it in the trailer too, but now's the time to talk about it. Jennifer Lawrence looks fucking horrible in this movie. She looks utterly disinterested. And I'm not one of the people who jumps on the hate Jennifer Garner bandwagon. Yes, I understand she treated a reporter poorly once.
Lawrence.
Well, I mean, you can hate Jennifer Garner too. That's perfectly justifiable.
Did I say Jennifer Garner?
I mean, again, feel free to hate both of them. That's fine, but if you want to transition talking about Jennifer Garner and her terrible life choices, fine, we can. But
I'm having, they said my brain works. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. No problems with the old brain. But anyway, yes, I meant Jennifer Lawrence. I'm not one of the people who jumps on the Jennifer Lawrence bandwagon, or the Brie Larson bandwagon for that matter. I mean, when you're out in the public and people are looking for you to fuck up, you'll find fuck ups. So, I don't know what she's like in real life. I'm not here to judge that. But she looks absolutely, completely disinterested in this movie. She gives one of the worst performances I've ever seen her do, and she's not a bad actress by any stretch of the imagination. She just gave no fucks during this entire movie.
Not just no, like she was owed. She's like that Jeopardy contestant with like the Sean Connery from Celebrity Jeopardy. I have -$5,000. Ha! Charity owes me this time.
Yeah, she came in with negative fucks to give.
We should add, nobody actually gives a bad performance in the grand scheme of things. Everyone in this movie, they're all really good actors, and they're all trying as hard as they can. I think there was a couple of times I sort of groaned at Nicholas Hoult. I think his accent was slipping a little.
There's one scene where Michael Fassbender slips, and it made me sad. But
they're trying with the material that they've been given.
Yeah, no, these are all very good actors.
Yeah,
they all. I mean, hell, we're complaining about Jessica Chastain. Jessica Chastain has never given a bad performance.
She doesn't give a bad one here. She's just told, okay, you're flat. Be flat. She went, okay, look, I'm cashing the check, so I will do as you say.
It's like you're an emotionless alien who could apparently give psychic purple nurples.
All right, so I want to talk about Ty Sheridan and Sophie Turner and their supposed romance. So here's the first thing, right? It's a rush job to get him into space. Okay, I have the same problem with this movie that I had with BVS, which was, for as long as an epic as that movie was supposed to be, that movie moved from scene to scene so fast that a lot of things weren't set up or properly contextualized. So the movie feels like it's moving at breakneck speed, and you're like, but for why? Why is this happening? More on that. Listen to me and Robert review Batman vs. Superman. But here's the problem with this one. They set up that we're living in the post-apocalypse era where the X-Men are the Avengers and everybody loves them. And again, it's not really shown. It's just explained. They have the one bit where they're getting off the space shuttle, but that's all you get. So again, you don't really get a feel for what the stakes are if one of these people goes bad and starts killing people on camera, which is what will happen later on in the movie. So poor writing there. They go up into space. They have a fine little action sequence of them doing space X-Men stuff. Robert already talked about the stupidity of her getting of how she gets the Phoenix Force. I didn't really care. It looked terrible, but I was like, I'll forgive it. But then, because my issue here is the relationships are so poorly drawn in this movie that it took me out of it. So you don't get a sense of who Jean is in this movie. It's very much written like, well, did you see the other ones? Did you see Apocalypse? Just remember what she's like in Apocalypse. It's fine. And it's like, okay, you shouldn't take that approach with writing movies. You have to write each movie as if it stands alone, and nobody saw the previous ones. Because she has no fucking character going into space. So when she comes down and she's like reveling in her power, which again, one scene, and she goes a little nuts at a party. Like, if you're gonna write that this character is like losing control of her powers, can we show her losing control of her powers separate from she's angry at Charles and her dad? Because that's a whole other thing. They don't spend nearly enough time with her before she has the powers so that you can compare it with after she has the powers, and then they don't do anything with her interesting when she has the powers to then get you to the next place where she's like, I gotta go talk to my dad, who I just figured out is alive. They rush through that entire thing. Now, let me talk about Scott for a second. Poor Ty Sheridan, who
Hang on. I'm going to defend Ty Sheridan just preemptively and just with two things. One, he does a significantly better job of actually emoting with the visor on his face than James Marsden does in like 8 movies as Scott.
Yeah, well, because nobody cared about James Marsden's character, including the people who directed him.
Yeah, well, okay. Nobody really knows how to write Cyclops.
In all fairness, Marsden's visor was also a lot bigger and clunky. This one's much smaller and streamlined, so you can see more of the face.
True, but I think the way his performance went, I think he would have been okay even under the one that Marsden had to deal with.
My problem isn't his performance. My problem is what he's given to work with. This guy,
no, he spends half of the movie just dramatically bursting through doorways going, Gene.
Right, but that's the thing. I would even be okay with that if they James Marsden his performance. It was like, you're only getting this much of the movie, pal. I would almost be okay with the little bit that he's given if he had any reason to give those kinds of performances. Like, I got from at least the first X-Men movie that James Marsden Cyclops loved Famke Janssen's Jean Grey. And in Apocalypse, I get their relationship a lot more because it's building.
Just starting.
But that's the thing is,
they go from like point 1 to point 327 and skip everything in between.
Right. But that's again. Here's the thing. He goes crazy about midway through this movie and was like, "If you touch Jean, I'll fucking kill you." Now, I know you don't curse, Robert, but if I ever say I'm gonna fucking kill somebody, I'm pretty pissed off, and that person probably means a lot to me to have driven me to that point. If you're gonna write it that way, you have to back it up with things you're doing and saying in the film. There's nothing in this movie that gets him from where they are when they get off the space shuttle to I'm gonna fucking kill you, Magneto. Okay? Nothing. They gave this poor actor nothing to work with. So that line was fucking laughable to me. Like, he says it, and I literally, like, spit popcorn. I was laughing so hard. And it wasn't like it's not supposed to be a funny line. You're supposed to, like, get his rage and, and his frustration and his desperation in that one scene. And I get none of it because it's not his fault. He didn't deliver it like in a hilariously over the top or bad, or poor acting kind of a way. He went from, as you said, just kicking doors open and going, Gene, to I'm gonna fucking kill you with no reason.
It does seem weird that they gave him the one F-bomb in the PG-13.
Yeah, really. Like, if you get one and you give it to Cyclops. I maintain the best use of the single F-bomb in PG-13 movies is still Hugh Jackman from First Class.
Oh, agreed.
When they show up at the bar and meet Wolverine and are like, hey, we got a thing. My name's Xavier Magneto. We're trying to put a thing together. He just looks at him and goes, off.
So there's that, okay? Their relationship sucks in this movie, and that's a crying shame. For all the complaining that gets done about the first 3 X-Men movies, at least until they were just done with James Marsden and that whole character, I actually believe those two were in love. I don't believe it in this movie, and that takes out one of the main pillars of this story.
In this instance, I think there's 2 things that work against Sheridan and Turner as opposed to Marsden and Jansen in this case. One is just the writing,
mm-hmm.
like. The other is, frankly, just time. We get more time with the adult version in the first three than we
Right.
do with quasi-teenagers in this one.
But that's what I'm saying. My biggest problem with this movie, other than characterization, is the pacing. I mean, I'm big on the Kevin Smith line. Just get the kids to the mall already, but not at this sacrificing the story. And this sacrifices a lot of story and a lot of characterization just to get to evil Jean Grey.
Guys, I just realized something. Everything we're complaining about, Dark Phoenix is an early DC film.
I did compare it to BVS.
I started thinking about it. We're talking about the pacing, and because the way you're talking about how they rush their romance and everything, and I'm thinking, yeah, they're probably being like, well, you read the comics and everything, and that was the biggest argument with Suicide Squad and the Batman v Superman is that, well, you've read the comics, you know this stuff. And then it just hit me, oh, crap, I am having serious deja vu.
At the risk of repeating myself, Lord of the Rings, right, is a 3-part story. It literally is Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3. And it can be said that 2 and 3, with some minor tweaks, could both be standalone pictures because you are spending so much time with the characters. There's so much setup in each of the movies, not just the Fellowship of the Ring. Now, if the Lord of the Rings can pull that off, I expect it from movies like this. They're not, the Lord of the Rings was not written in a way, well, did you see Fellowship? Well, fuck off if you didn't. We're not explaining shit to you.
The Marvel, Infinity Saga, we talked about this when we did the recap of all the MCU films. We said that you can walk into Endgame and still enjoy it without seeing the other movies. We don't recommend it because the other movies do add more touches to it that you're going to enjoy, but you can still do it.
Right. Even if you just walked into Endgame having seen none of these before, you're somebody's boyfriend or girlfriend who doesn't watch comic book movies and you got dragged to this one, you at least understand where they are when they get there. You see Hawkeye. Well, I don't want to get into a whole thing, but yes, you're absolutely right. The Marvel movies do a really good job of. Have you seen the other ones? Doesn't matter. Here's the story so far. There's a line in this movie that was in the trailer, which I really liked, and I thought they were going to do something with, but when it happens and without any kind of context to it, ended up really ringing hollow. And that's there's always an apology, Charles, and nobody cares anymore.
There's always a speech. You're always sorry, but no one cares.
Right. And here's the thing. Yes, if you look back at the 3 previous movies and some of the mistakes that he's made, you get where Magneto's coming from. Based on this, again, you can't do that. When you write a feature film, you can't just be like, watch the earlier ones. You'll understand why he's saying that. It doesn't work that way. That's lazy fucking writing. It's bad writing. So that line, so there's nothing else in this, Charles is made to be the bad guy, and that speech is supposed to be like you've made some choices that are suspect, and that's how we got to this really terrible place where everything we've worked for is coming apart at the seams. There's none of that in this movie. What he does for Jean, he has that's the one thing they're talking about, which doesn't equal there's always a speech and you're always sorry. Those two things are not equal. We can sit here and debate the merits of what he did to Jean and how bad or how good it was, and what his intentions were, but that's literally the only thing referenced in this movie. There isn't anything else. That whole speech needed to be fleshed out a bit more if you're going to go ahead and do that and lay all these choices that he's made at his feet. The aliens, Vuk, Vector, the gatekeeper, the keymaster, I don't know what her fucking name is, but Jessica Chastain, oy vey. Your line about the aliens are the way they are because they have no budget seems about on point. Jessica Chastain her character is just be flat and do a big exposition dump. It's about right.
They were, from what I've heard, they were supposed to be Skrulls.
Right.
Especially since I actually looked it up. The Dabari were in the comics. They were not shapeshifters. They were a race whose planet was destroyed by the Phoenix Force. But that's it.
So she's playing the devil on Jean's shoulder, and they got one hot whole scene to get that across. Again, if you're gonna have a character kind of whispering in Jean's ear, going, because the whole point, I didn't really was her plan was to push Jean to the point where she uses her powers and to the point where she really hurts people, and she was like, I don't want this anymore, and gives it away freely.
No, I think that was a happy byproduct. I think the original plan was, hey, let's manipulate this woman until she'll do what we say what we tell her to do.
I think the plot was this script is way too contrived. Let's just make this work.
Either way, it isn't clear what her motive. I mean, her motivation was to get the Phoenix Force. That much I got, but what she needed to do to get it from Jean was a bit muddled. So that's it. It's muddled. It was confusing. It wasn't well played at all. And if you're going with the thing of we need to push Jean to the breaking point so that she wants to divorce herself from this willingly so that we'll get it and then we'll use it to take over the Earth or whatever it was their plan was, then we need more of Jean going crazy. It literally is exposition of what the Phoenix Force is, a fight with Xavier and Magneto, and she's on a fucking train, strapped to a gurney. That's it.
I do give this movie credit on one point as comparing it to Last Stand. I think they did a better job of showing exactly what could be done with the Phoenix Force power. One of my biggest complaints about Last Stand is they talk about how powerful she is, but we don't really see her doing anything other than the Thanos porn that it wasn't really established a powerful telekinetic person couldn't do. Here, I like the scene of her the scene where she's she's controlling the helicopter against Magneto, and we see him struggling. Again, contrived as hell, but a better idea, visualization of just how powerful she is.
That scene might have worked better than after she sees Vuk, not before.
I'm
not disagreeing with you. I just think it's a misplaced scene. So, just kind of wrap up my point with this because I think I've made myself abundantly clear. The relationships are written poorly, the plot's muddled, and a lot of stuff just isn't fleshed out the way it should be. I missed this before. I was kind of going in order of how the movie went, but Jennifer Lawrence's death scene was wasted. Honestly, I said it before, I think she should have died in Apocalypse, but she didn't. She's in this movie as a Blue Smurf, so it is what it is.
That death scene horribly shot. They show her slamming away and they focus on her face, which is gasping for air, and then they pan out to see that she's been impaled. Anyone who looks at her face can see she's been, struck by something.
Yeah, there's no shock there. But here's the thing, again, that scene is supposed to be the end point of her relationship with Jean, which they don't flesh out. So
did they even have a relationship in Apocalypse?
No,
not just in this one. In this one, there's nothing.
No, the Apocalypse.
They give Jennifer Lawrence this They give Mystique this ridiculous kind of gimmick of, well, I'm the one sticking up for the teenagers you're sending into dangerous spaces, and then I will walk up with my only ability being completely useless, and I'm going to talk you down, built up utilizing our relationship that has not been established through any of our previous interactions under any circumstances.
Going back to Apocalypse for a second, what that movie was about was Xavier just wants to have the school. There are no X-Men as such. It's just hey, we're just wanting to teach the mutants how to use their powers and not fuck up the world, and we're just trying to coexist here. And the counter argument to that is, but there's shit happening. Magneto may have laid down and died, but there are other people out there with these powers that are going to do bad things, and we need to have weapons in place to counteract that, or we're going to lose control of the whole argument. And and then Apocalypse happens, and then Jennifer Lawrence basically becomes team leader for the X-Men. That's that movie. So with this one, it's established now that this has been a thing for a while. That team that goes into space, they're the X-Men. She's the leader. But again, that much of it I got, and that's fine. I would have liked to see. I wouldn't have. if I'm shooting and writing this thing, and I'm not about to be bought by Disney, and the whole project isn't a complete catastrophe, I begin with like either a montage or an extended sequence of them, doing some saving and taking out some evil mutants. That's completely divorced from anything having to do with Space or the Phoenix, so that you can show her relationship with this team. And Jean especially. Then show some scenes of her and Jean, in a place of bonding, in a sisterhood of some sort. So that later on when Jean fucking kills her, because, as she's trying to talk her off the ledge, that all makes sense. It didn't make sense for her to talk to her. There's no relationship there that's ever shown on camera. And then when she kills her, it's like, okay, oops. That, like, I got nothing there.
Doesn't help that, as I mentioned before, one of the biggest complaints about Apocalypse was that Jennifer Lawrence was shoved in there too much. We were sick of her, and we were sick of Mystique. So when she's killed off, we don't feel the relationship, and we're happy to see her go. It's like, fine, this is a character we were tired of anyway. And for the record, I got to get on my soapbox here for a second. I'm going to come across as the biggest traitor to my gender. But that ex-women line
that was so bad.
It's like, okay, I sat there and go, wow, and people were complaining about that scene in Endgame with all the female Avengers. That was terrible.
Someone got paid a lot of money to write that bit of dialogue. Just digest that reality.
That was absolutely a studio note, and that wasn't a Disney studio note. That was absolutely a Fox studio note.
Absolutely. I was sitting there going, wow, Jesus
someone still wrote it and someone got paid to do it. That's the world we live in.
I'm going to sound so horrible for saying this, but it was a man who said, let's throw that line in there, because no woman would actually put that in thinking it's going to make a difference.
Or be well received, or get a point across, or have anyone sympathetic to, the cause of equality among the genders.
Yeah, sorry. That was a man who said, "Here, let's get some cherry points with women and put this line in."
You talked about like condescension from men and and patronage. That's what that was.
Yes.
Or mansplaining, if you will. Anyway.
Well, not to mention, I was sitting there going, "It doesn't even make sense. There's only three." Okay, actually, this brings me to another point. All of the X-Men movies, even when they're pretty bad, have had some pretty good fan service. There's always been some background characters that you can point and going, oh, that's so-and-so from the comics.
You're going to talk about Dazzler now, aren't you? And I'm going to have to resist throwing my desk across the room.
But Mark, Dazzler, not just Dazzler, disco roller skate Dazzler, not the 80s Australian Dazzler, 70s Dazzler.
Yeah.
For the record, Mark, are you going to throw your desk at me, or are you throwing it at the movie?
I'm throwing it at the movie.
Okay, good. I was really worried I was about to piss you off.
No, okay. Please, go ahead.
No, that did piss me off. I am not a giant Dazzler fan. I know who she is. I love... Okay, this will actually make you laugh. One of my all-time favorite cosplays. There is a comic where Deadpool goes back in time into the 70s, 80s, whatever, and meets Dazzler. And he's got like an afro on top of his costume. Someone did a cosplay of those two, Afro Disco Deadpool and Dazzler, and they were both in roller skates the whole time at the con.
That's awesome.
And they were good on roller skates, so it was awesome. So yeah, I know who Dazzler was, and I remember going, wow, even Gambit got a better introduction in X-Men Origins Wolverine than this.
Yeah.
And
I was pissed. I was fucking pissed.
And we only get intro to two other mutants. Selene, who I, for the love of God, could not figure out what the hell her powers were, besides, shitty tattoos. And some dude who basically looked like the love child of Inhumans Medusa and Maui from Moana.
Well, look,
one of
their
them,
powers,
I think, is Red Lotus.
Their powers were ethnic tribalism. I don't know.
Okay, so one of them is Red Lotus. And the other one...
He's not credited as Red Lotus. He's credited as Ariki.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Is that what Red Lotus's powers are? The Medusa hair?
I don't know. But the other one is Selene Gallio. This is the one with the shitty tattoos.
Yeah, it's not Red Lotus. Red Lotus does not have Medusa hair. I'm sorry. I no, I don't like making comparisons to Inhumans. No sane person does. That's all I could think of with those freaking dreadlocks. I'm like, oh, sweet God, somebody just got a copy of Inhumans mixed up in the script.
Yeah, I would rather them just not, like, have fucking mutants in the background doing, like I know Dazzler's not that important to the Marvel Universe, but what a wasted shot that was. I saw that and went, are you fucking kidding me? Unless she shows up later and disco dances and, into the train and rescues everybody, what is the point of this?
Exactly. It's like, if you're going to go through the work of including this character, include it in a way that the fans are going to appreciate. I was so pissed off that on Genosha, I was hoping that we were going to see more mutants in the background and see their powers and kind of get an idea of who was doing what and whatever. No,
instead for some reason, the Master of Magnetism and Metal leaves a metal helicopter crashed in the center of their encampment for a day and a half until Beast shows up.
All right.
Like, how lazy are you, Fassbender? It takes a thought.
Let me wrap this up here. I think I've made myself very clear here. I've talked about the last thing I talked about in order of things happening in the film, or the aliens. I mean, and then we get to the train sequence, and I don't know. I mean, as far as I know, I said before, like, people are just looking for a good time, and if you like seeing people disintegrated, essentially, if you like elongated fight scenes, this was fine. I was bored out of my fucking mind.
I love elongated action sequences. One of my favorite things is a movie. I argued, last week in favor of, hey, you know what? How about we say nuts to the humans and just do an all kaiju movie?
Mm-hmm. But again, Godzilla versus Ghidorah looks interesting. This didn't.
I agree. I'm just saying, even if to the people who are just like deeply entertained by this movie, I mean, again, even Mark. And I don't say this disparagingly, because this is kind of the demographic you represent on this show.
Proudly.
Even Mark was like, no, this is really, really stupid. And Mark defends Transformers.
Yep. Transformers is a much more interesting movie than this one was.
Depending on which one, I might accept that argument.
So, yeah, I just the train sequence just went on forever. It went on too long.
It was incredibly anticlimactic.
Yeah, it was very anticlimactic. And then lastly, the resolution of this. I was failing to understand why, after everything that happened, they named the fucking school after Jean Grey. Like, I got why Charles left and left it to Hank. That transition within the movie itself made some degree of sense. Why the lash out of Scott wasn't him crying underneath his bed, I'll never understand, for all the things, for all of his professed love for this woman that's now gone to join Captain Marvel out in space. Instead,
they're gonna get January Jones back, and we'll revisit the great romance between Cyclops and Emma Frost. Only this time we'll have much creepier overtones.
So, him hanging up the sign, and then the sign being, the Jean Grey School for Gifted Youngsters. I'm like, but why?
I nearly threw my soda at the screen at that.
And then, then the final shot of Xavier hanging out in the same cafe as fucking Batman at the end of The Dark Knight Rises. Like, whatever.
That was better set up.
That was actually a blatant homage. Kinberg admitted that that's what he was going for.
Oh, was he? I was making a crack.
No, he
good for him. Again, like Mark, whatever else you think about The Dark Knight Rises, if you're gonna retire Bruce Wayne as Batman, that's about the best way you're gonna do it, and I really enjoyed that.
I have to admit that actually was one of my favorite scenes in the movie, mostly just because McAvoy and Fassbender do have great chemistry. And I just love the idea that after all of this, Magneto sits down with the chessboard like old times. That I genuinely liked that moment.
Yeah, it was fine. There wasn't enough Dark Phoenix. Just to recap, the characters and the relationships were all written so badly that, and then it was like I can't even. this is one of those times where, like, in movies past, I would have said to Robert, yeah, but there was so much over-the-top action in this. We're going to see Hobbs and Shaw later this year, and I guarantee you
God help us.
The line I'm going to say in defense of the movie is, sure, it's a shitty written movie, but boy, the action scenes were so much fun, I don't care. And the performances were so over-the-top and fun, I don't care how badly it's written.
No. Mark, I'm going to preemptively nix two of your defenses of that movie right now. You're not allowed to reference the quality of the performances because Roman Reigns is there.
Shut up. Shut up.
And the power of Roman Reigns is
Yeah, it's like dealing with you sometimes is you're like that Lewis Black joke about hunting quail in comparing it to the run up to the Iraq War where you walk in a line and he turns around and he shot the guy next to him. Swear to God, stay on target, man. Focus. The point that I was trying to get to here, and I'm going to shut up and let Alexis finish her review of the movie, and we can move on. Is none of the I can't say any of those things about Dark Phoenix. The action sucks. The characterization sucks. The story sucked. Everything about this movie sucked. The only thing, like, I can, I'm hearing some reviews from, like, RLM and Doug Walker and some of these other guys, and it's like, did we watch the same fucking movie? This was the only thing I can say about this, and come on, Rattledge. I got money betting on you'll say something positive. The performances were as good as they could be with the material given, and I think it was mostly competently shot. That's about all I got.
You are wrong on at least one of those counts.
I agree.
This is
I already
not...
said my lines about how apparently Kinberg doesn't understand when to do a handheld and when to do a dolly.
Okay, the shots are in focus. How about that?
Okay, there's
No,
not
they're
a
not. Half of them are blurry because they're going through that weird-ass memory effect.
Okay.
They try to do that stupid, we're going to phase our focus into the background, into the foreground, depending on who's talking, and they get it wrong.
All right, I'm done.
Look, the best thing I can say about the technical aspects of the shooting of this is you don't actually see a boom mic, and I'm not entirely sure that that's true if I were to go back and rewatch this and pay attention to the edges of the shot.
Hey, Alexis, did you know that Disney announced a Chip and Dale reboot for Disney Plus?
Yay!
All right, that's your cue to talk.
Wait. Are they doing Rescue Rangers?
Alexis, what did you think of the movie? What other critical elements do you have to say?
What? I want to know if they're doing Rescue Rangers too.
Oh, fuck you both.
You open the can, dude.
You talk. I'll research.
Oh, God. Well, see, now I got the theme song stuck in my head. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
I think that thing's a bigger earworm than the DuckTales theme song. No.
Yes, it is Rescue Rangers, by the way.
What? No, I was very disappointed by this film. As I mentioned before, I'm sick and tired of Fox thinking that the Phoenix Saga only has to be the Dark Phoenix Saga. The actors, God bless them, they all did really good. But so much of this movie, Kinberg's been a producer for ages and he's worked on some really good movies, but it's clear that he has no business directing. He kept reusing the same editing tricks over and over again. He kept screwing up shots. Those are some of the worst action sequences I have ever seen, which is why I actually argue X-Men The Last Stand is the better movie, because while the plot for that movie was, going sideways, backwards like a fucking Wonka elevator, at least the action sequences were clearly shot, well lit, and enjoyable. For the record, why did every decent action sequence have, with the exception of the one with the police, have to be in the freaking dark?
Same reason that the entirety of the sequence on Alcatraz Island was shot at night.
Fair enough. But that was better lit, strangely enough. But no.
No. Once Jean goes psycho in that one, it's better lit. Wolverine does his epic walk up to finally put her out of her misery. The entirety of them breaking into it is just... I
guess most of my memory's kind of fuzzy after seeing Hugh Jackman shirtless.
Fair enough. The man got ripped for that role.
Yeah, he's gorgeous. No, he's one of my top 5 celebrity crushes. With good reason. No, this movie was just boring badly shot, badly written, badly everything. And as I mentioned, it didn't even give some fun little bits of fan service or shouts out to the comics or to the X-Men fans that we could at least have a nice little squee over. I mean, for God's sake, at least Justice League gave us that awesome post-credit scene with Deathstroke.
Look, Joe Manganiello is awesome. He should have run as far away from that as possible.
Did you hear that the rumors now they want Macaulay Culkin to play Joker?
Look.
Seen it, love it.
Mark. No.
Love it.
No, you don't.
I hope they play the Joker. I hope he plays the Joker as the kid from Home Alone. All grown up.
Didn't they do that in a Funny or Die sketch? Or was it a College Humor sketch?
I would not know.
I'm just arguing, oh, yay, good, another Joker. There are more villains in Batman's Rogues Gallery. You don't always have to put Lex Luthor against Superman, and you don't always have to put the Joker against Batman. I don't care if Joe, however the hell you pronounce his last name, doesn't want to play Deathstroke anymore. I deserve a Deathstroke movie.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
No one does.
Nah.
And look, I like Joe Manganiello. He's a competent actor. He looks the part. If he were to do a solo Deathstroke movie, I could dig it. But he should have run as far away from that franchise. Like, hey, we want you to show up on a yacht with Jesse Eisenberg. No. You want Deathstroke? Fine. I will brood on top of a building, looking at Batman through the sights of my sniper rifle. I will not do anything involving Eisenluther.
Eisenluther, I like that. But yeah, sorry. Dark Phoenix was boring, underperforming, just a real... The last few movies that we reviewed, I've admitted, had not been that good, but I'm still glad I saw them. This is the first movie I can remember in a while reviewing for this show that I'm sitting there going, I want my $8 back.
Yeah, I wish this was the first time I'd had that experience with movies for this show.
You've been on the show longer than I have.
I like Dumbo more than I like this.
Trying to see if I can counter that point. Hang on.
Okay, last week's show, what was the movie that I said was better than Dark Phoenix or worse than Dark Phoenix? I'm trying to remember.
I don't recall.
I can't recall. I remember saying something that it was like, that's worse than Dark Phoenix, and Robert, you said, whoa, wait a minute.
It was something we reviewed.
It wasn't Godzilla King. It wasn't King of the Monsters.
It might have been 98 Godzilla.
I hate to say it, I did that whole review in the car on the way to St. Louis. My memory's kind of fuzzy about what I said.
It might have been that. It might have been Last Stand. It was one of those. I don't remember the specifics.
Alexis, anything else on your thoughts on this movie before we have Robert the last word and we can move on to the money?
I agree with you, Mark. If you're going to give us a scene with Dazzler, give us a freaking scene with Dazzler. Don't make her look just some teenager in the background singing. We can't even tell what the hell she's doing with her powers.
Who are you to doubt the power of Enya?
All right, Robert, take me home, baby doll.
All right, let me start off with the positive. Because it exists in this movie, believe it or not. Fassbender and McAvoy are great. Michael Fassbender is apart from Hugh Jackman, I think he's the guy who has benefited the most from being a part of the X-Men franchise. He always comes across as kind of a big deal in these movies, apart from when his Irish accent slips in. In X-Men First Class, that was every time he put the helmet on. In this, it's just once, and I think it's when he the first line he says to Jessica Chastain as she walks up to him on the train. And he said it, and I went, yep, there's the Irish. Again, he and McAvoy give as good a performance as it is possible to give, and they actually go out of their way to elevate the crappy material they're given to work with. So, kudos to them. Everyone else is, apart from Jennifer Lawrence and Nick Holtz, are just fine. Again, they clearly show up and they clearly make an effort. Jennifer Lawrence doesn't. And I don't know if Nick Holtz is just given the absolute dirt worst material to work with, or because he comes across more hammy than anything else. There's a lot of 180s from characters. I mean, when Magneto stands up to Jessica Chastain on the train and she's like, "You were just trying to kill her," his response isn't, "Yeah, but you want to kill all of us." It's, "I had a change of heart." Like, there's a better line to be had there than "I had a change of heart." I feel like he could have worked with that moment a little bit better.
He could have said, don't bother me with logic, woman. We're in a fight. And it would have been better.
Or even just something like, "I'll kill her later. Right now, I just need to kill you."
Yeah, she's not a threat right now. You are.
Honestly, if he had said, "Hey, less talky, more punchy," that would have been better.
No, that would have been worse.
No, it wouldn't have.
That would have been worse. But that's about the only thing that would have been worse. So credit to them. Credit to the actors who do as much as they can. Somewhere within the bones of this movie is a much better movie. There's some decent ideas that are touched on here. I mean, the central idea that this movie kind of it doesn't actually commit to it or get to it or address it in any sort of meaningful way. But the notion of, I have no control over this. There's kind of a great little gag line from Xavier when he says, "You call us superheroes," and I'm not entirely sure what that word means. It's just better than what you used to call us. And there's a lot of with the X-Men generally, and what stuff that this movie could have touched on. There's a lot of material there to work with, and that this isn't a billionaire developing a suit or studying martial arts. This isn't a super soldier serum. There's no gamma explosion. There's no random engine explosion that turns Brie Larson and every small insect in a 20-foot radius into photon blasting superheroes. You're just born different. And that provides you an interesting contrast, if nothing else, than to what goes on in the MCU proper. They never actually commit to talking about it. They just kind of dance around it a little bit, but it's there, and again, somewhere within that is a better narrative core.
Eddie apparently agrees with you.
Hi, Eddie. There was Sophie Turner's just, again, she does okay, but she's given such bad material. I think if you were to rewatch this movie and you want to get absolutely drunk, I mean like alcohol poisoning level drunk, take a shot every time Jean Grey repeats herself.
Or every time she gets those glowy veins. Seriously, talk about an overdone effect.
Overdone, yeah, but I care less. I care less about that than I do that from one scene to the next, she reuses like the same bit of dialogue.
Well, cracked face, by the way, the shiny cracked face has become the new liquid metal. It's everywhere. It's the blue light in the sky.
I was going to go with, instead of the liquid metal thing, it's that dislocated jaw that just opens up way too wide.
Yeah, all of them. All of the things.
Please stop.
No,
all of you visual effects guys, please stop.
Come up with something new. We're done with crack face.
So yeah, there are good parts to this movie, but it's just so badly put together. I imagine that the original ending for this movie involved, and part of the reason I think they had to reshoot it was I can very clearly see how after they kind of get bits of the Phoenix Force, the Dabari on Earth put out the call to the remnants of their species, and as Jean Grey flies Jessica Chastain into the atmosphere and then detonates her, oh look, their spaceship arrives and she flies through it a few times.
Well, considering the fact everyone's saying the ending was apparently too similar to Captain Marvel.
Like I can very clearly see how they would have gotten to exactly that point.
I think they should have embraced it. Like I think they should have done whatever ending they were going to come up with. Have her come down in a blue, yellow, and red suit and say, "I can't stay with the X-Men. People need me in space," and fly away. with her dog Poochie.
It took me a second to get that reference, but bravo.
No, I understood the reference immediately. I was just sad it wasn't actually in reference to Brie Larson's Captain Marvel, but... So, again, this is just such a badly constructed movie that even its strengths are, like, actively diminished. And... that takes some doing. That's a pretty impressive feat when you actually consider how strong elements of this could be and are in some respects.
Let me hit another box on Rattledge Broadcasting bingo. Do you think this is better or worse than Reese Witherspoon turning into romaine lettuce?
Oh, that's...
I thought you were going to ask if it was better or worse than Venom.
There we go. Someone's got bingo now.
Okay. To answer your question, I don't know about better. I would watch this again before I watched A Wrinkle in Time again.
I'd hit myself in the nuts before I'd watch A Wrinkle in Time again. I mean, that goes without saying.
If you made me choose between this and Venom, honest to God, put a gun to my... Hang on,
I would watch Venom. I would watch Venom.
I would not.
No, I would absolutely watch Venom before I watch this.
I don't think I'd watch Venom again, and there's like two very specific reasons why I would watch this over Venom. The entire closing sequence for this movie is, again, dark and a little bit muddled, but is still readable visually.
Sure.
The entire closing action sequence for Venom looks like something from an Xbox first-generation console, and is just terrible.
It looks like a kid smearing, like, a puddle of mud.
Like, your son probably has done better artwork than went into Venom versus whatever other symbiote.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it was supposed to be Riot.
Yes, it was Riot.
Okay.
All right, anything else, Robert? You want to close up here?
If I had something, I have since forgotten it. So, yeah, let's move on.
All right, folks.
Again, I'm not sure if this is the actual worst in the franchise. I would have to put myself through the indignity of rewatching Last Stand and at least one of the Wolverine movies to really kind of make that.
I will
really
tell you,
solidify that.
Look, I'll say it, and this is an opinion. I don't need a debate about it. I think this is the absolute dirt worst in the entire franchise. I think it's worse than X-Men Origins.
Yeah, I don't think it's worse than X-Men Origins, just because there's and I swear this is true. If you rewatch that movie, Mark, if you were to rewatch that movie, there's about 40 minutes of that movie that you will have just forgotten exists.
Let's put it this way. I did it on trial for X-Men Origins Wolverine when Logan came out. I just rewatched The Last Stand in preparation for this week's X-Men Origin. I don't remember hating either one. I remember being very thoughtful about what were the saving graces of this. Now, going through that same exercise, I don't think I could find a single argument, a believable argument. I mean, including my arguments for like Catwoman and what was the one where Sean was convinced I was giving up on purpose? Oh gosh, I have to look back and see what we did.
If it wasn't Catwoman, I don't know what it would have been.
No kidding.
No, Catwoman. I in earnest tried to defend. God, there was one. I'm gonna go back a month here.
You listed off some of the stuff like I'm defending this, and I went, "There's nothing. There's nothing you can say to defend that movie."
I know Battleship was definitely one.
That was.
Oh God!
You had to defend Battleship.
I had to defend Battleship. Yep.
Look, defending anything that involves Taylor Kitsch is just a bad idea to begin with.
Battleship's the movie that even Hollywood gave up on.
Yeah.
That was the movie that everyone basically said, don't go see it. No, seriously, not even as a joke. Don't see this movie.
Okay, hang on. January, we did Judgment Night. No, did we? Did we ever get there? No, we might not have done that one because he was busy or something. I don't remember anymore. Yeah, I took it off my schedule, so we never ended up doing Judgment Night. We did Pan's Labyrinth, and I don't think that one was that was.
Oh, that's a brilliant movie. That's an
Agreed.
absolutely brilliant movie.
I defended Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed.
Ooh.
I take on the hard cases.
Yeah.
We
Do
didn't
you get it? Like, are you doubling down on all these terrible things just because your check's a little bit larger?
I don't think we did one in April. We did A Long Road to Ruin instead. May was The Three Musketeers. Yeah, I don't remember which one.
Wait, which Three Musketeers? The one with Orlando Bloom or the one with Chris O'Donnell?
O'Donnell.
Okay.
Or as I keep saying, the one with Oliver Platt.
I hate to say it, I couldn't remember who played the other actors. O'Donnell, for some reason, has been the only one I could... Oh, and Tim Curry, of course.
No, that movie is star-studded. You have Kiefer Sutherland, Charlie Sheen, Oliver Platt, Chris O'Donnell, Tim Curry, Michael Wincott, and Rebecca De Mornay. That movie has an absolutely stellar cast.
Maybe it was Robin Hood,
Which one?
Prince of Thieves.
Oh, there's plenty to defend about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Yeah, I actually like that movie, even if you do argue that Kevin Costner was one of the dumbest choices on the planet to play Robin Hood.
Especially
I
on the... I mean, especially... the reason I know his lack of a British accent gets talked about all the time, there's a very specific reason he didn't do it. Because they bumped up the production schedule, so he didn't have enough time to get the accent where he wanted it. So rather than do just the worst British accent in screen history, he just used his normal voice, basically.
And again, speaking of star-studded, that movie's got some really great actors in it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm wondering
Costner, Slater, Rickman.
I'm wondering
Sean
if it was...
Connery.
Oh, that's right. We did it on trial for Unbreakable. That's what it was. Instead of doing Judgment Night, we did Unbreakable, and that's the one where he was convinced I was giving up on purpose.
You had to defend Unbreakable?
I think I prosecuted it.
Oh. Then,
Yeah.
you probably did give up on... There's not really a ton to complain about with Unbreakable. Don't get me wrong, it's not perfect.
I
But,
found things.
I mean, there are things you can find, I'm sure, but on the whole, it's perfectly acceptable.
I actually thought Unbreakable was the better of the first two movies of Shyamalan. I honestly did think it was better than Sixth Sense. I thought the twist at the end of Sixth Sense was better, but I think Unbreakable on the whole was a better movie.
I'd have to rewatch it again. That was before the CPAP, so I'm pretty sure I dozed off through most of it. All right, with that said, here comes what little money there was to have. Wrong button. Here we go.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money,
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
I want you both to know that I took special care to not stop the recording this time, so we didn't lose half the review.
When you said wrong button, I was about to say, did you stop recording again?
No. My son didn't come and bother me this time. All right. On a budget on a budget that they say is $200 million, but I'm sure was a lot more.
Oh no!
That just,
There's
I
no
refuse to
way.
believe that factors in the reshoots.
There's no way that factors in reshoots. That absolutely does not consider marketing.
No.
There's no way.
I think it's closer to 350-400 million.
Yeah. If
This-
they spent $200 million on that, I don't know where it went because it wasn't to the visual effects budget.
As of this recording, it's earned $131.1 million. It's set to lose $100 million. It's this year's Ghostbusters Answer the Call. It's not quite Ben-Hur, but yeah, this might be one of the biggest loss leaders in terms of big franchise movies of the year. This one is not doing well. It didn't even win its weekend, and its only competition was fucking The Secret Life of Pets 2, which I did see, and it did suck, by the way. In case
Eddie
anyone-
says, "How dare you?"
And if anyone was interested in going to see The Secret Life of Pets 2, we saw it in the drive-in, and my wife, who is not a film critic, even agreed this was the dumbest thing she'd ever seen. And we both liked the first one, so take that for what it's worth. But
I liked the first one.
Yeah, I think we reviewed it. This
We
one,
did.
if I had kept it on the schedule, we were reviewing this one. You'd hate me more than you do for making you go see Dark Phoenix. It's that bad.
I have a hard time believing that, but it's possible. They do have, that movie does feature Patton Oswalt.
He's the best part of the movie.
Which just makes it the absolute worst.
I mean, I should say him and Harrison Ford. But well, more on that later. So The Secret Life of Pets 2 was number 1. Dark Phoenix debuted at number 2. Aladdin dropped from 2 to 3. Godzilla 1 to 4. Quick note on Godzilla. They're now thinking about delaying Godzilla versus King Kong. To which I say, hey, Warner Brothers, grow a set of balls. You've already shot the thing. At this point, you've shot your load. The event is over. Let's just show everyone what you did. Okay? And then stop doing this for a while. Put Godzilla to bed for a decade or so.
Has there ever been a good delayed release of a movie? Because from what I've seen, most times when a movie gets delayed, it's usually the kiss of death.
Yeah. That's not wrong. You're not wrong about that, and I can't think of one. But
I'd really have to think about it, and I can't think of too many off the top. I mean, I suppose we should also qualify delay. Like, if you're delayed, if you delay the release by a couple of months due to scheduling or whatnot, I can think of maybe a few that have had their release date played with a little bit, but if we're talking multiple months to a year and a half, no. 2 years, no. Yeah,
no, you're right. We're not talking getting delayed. That's not getting delayed. That's moving it. That's basically switching it with another film in the production schedule because they want to make sure that it will have the right competition at the box office.
do you know that's one of the arguments that's been written about for why this movie is not doing well? That it was never meant to compete with the other summer blockbusters. This was supposed to be like a late, like a Christmas release, November, somewhere in there.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't this originally to be released like in October of 17 or 18?
I thought this was supposed to be released in February. I thought they were trying to repeat what they did with Deadpool.
It's been moved all over the place, but the last place it was moved to was November, and I want to say James Cameron spoke up and said and wanted Alita Battle Angel got moved from where it was and got moved to the same weekend as Aquaman and Bumblebee, and around the same time as Mary Poppins Returns. And was like, please don't leave it on that date. No one will see this, which is what I said. I was like, I don't understand why why they're competing with both, and not even Mary Poppins, because I mean, who the fuck saw Alita and Mary Poppins other than me? So, like, huh? But James Cameron was like, yeah, it's not going to do well against Aquaman and Bumblebee. Please move it. So they moved it to. So it got moved to February, and then Dark Phoenix lost its February date and got moved to the summer.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you exactly. I know this thing has been done for a while, and I know we were originally set to review it. I think it was last year at some point.
Yeah, this and New Mutants has jumped around my schedule so many times. I think every time it moved, I posted on Facebook I wanted to kill myself. I was like, I'm so sick of this.
You used hashtag the schedule.
I think if I say which break between Game of Thrones seasons did they film this?
It's 2 years old now. I mean, the filming of this is 2 years old, so I would have to say, when did Apocalypse come out?
I think I thought it was 2016.
All right, principal photography began June 28th, 2017. There you go. And it was finished in October.
Wow, that's a long shoot.
June to October of the same year?
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry.
All right.
Wait,
so
just photography?
Okay, Fox delayed the film's release in March of 2018, pushing it back to February 14th of 2019.
Then they moved it from February of 19 to June.
Yeah. Well, that was because of James Cameron. All right, moving on. So we were talking about the box office here. Warner Brothers, grow nuts. Release Godzilla, King Kong on time next year, like you said you were going to do. Then don't do any more MonsterVerse movies for a while. Rocketman fell from 3 to 5. Ma fell from 4 to 6. John Wick 5 to 7. Avengers 6 to 8. Folks, come on,
It's getting closer.
come on, people. We're so close. Okay, here's where we are. Avatar, $2.7 billion. 2.78 rather. Avengers Endgame, 2.73. We're 50 million away.
It's not gonna happen, Mark.
Ma!
Just deal with it.
Come on, people.
Really got my fingers crossed. I really want to see it. We are so close.
We are so close.
Not gonna happen.
Anyway, back to June 7th through the 9th here. Detective Pokemon, apparently the most successful video game movie ever in the history of video game movies. Dropped
A,
from
really low bar. B, the movie sucks.
Emma, you guys both had the same joke.
7 to 9. Bookshot, 8 to 10. A Dog's Journey made absolutely no movement, but gained 19% change positive in theaters, so good for A Dog's Journey. Barat debuted at number 12. Brightburn, Evil Superman, 9 to 13. The Hustle, 10 to 14. Biggest Little Farm, no movement, stayed at 15. The Intruder, 12 to 16. Late Night debuted at 17. Oy. And The Last Black Man
Should have debuted lower.
in San Francisco debuted at number 18. And then some movie called All Is True and Echo in the Canyon at 19 and 20.
Okay, can I just very briefly related to Late Night? Apparently, there's been some talks that they want Mindy Kaling to develop Ms. Marvel.
Yep.
No.
Why?
Look,
Why do you care?
I'm not opposed to. Hang on, I'm not opposed to Ms. Marvel. I'm not opposed to Kamala Khan. I'm really not. I think Mindy Kaling is terrible.
Not going to play the character.
No,
I know.
They're looking to get her to play her.
No, there's
Wait.
not. They want her to be. They want her to help develop it, but she wants an unknown for the lead role.
She could.
Okay.
She can't play Ms. Look, I'm not. I'm gonna be that guy. All right. She's too fat.
Oh.
She cannot play Kamala Khan. She is not it's just no. They want her. My understanding was they wanted her to help write, direct, and develop the entire project. To which I still say no. She's terrible.
Well, I had actually heard that they were trying to get her. That Brie Larson was trying to get that character into the next Captain Marvel movie.
Of course she is. Because look at my virtue, not my lack of boobs.
Wow, Rob.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
For the record, are you guys picking up that squeak in the background?
Yes.
Not really.
Okay.
Every now and then, but if that keeps him from woofing, then fair play.
Yeah, it's pretty much he's either going to growl, woof, or chew on his stuffed shark that has a squeaky thing in it.
I hear Eddie. I hear Eddie one more time. So help me God, I'm going to wake Jonas up and make him part of the podcast.
No, you're not.
All right.
Okay, hang on. Let me be in all seriousness about Kamala Khan. She's supposed to fit in with Captain Marvel. Her whole shtick is she's a Captain Marvel fangirl. That's why her superhero name is Ms. Marvel. She's one of the Inhumans. I have no issues with the character. If they wanted to help build her into the next Captain Marvel movie, fair play. Again, that works. But Mindy Kaling should be kept as far away from that as humanly possible.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have an issue with Mindy Kaling as such, and if she's gonna honor the source material and she's write a competent story, we'll see. I can't judge. I'm not going to judge something before I see it. This is how we get into problems with Christian Bale is Batman. Oh no, I'm sorry, that wasn't the argument. Or was it?
Robert Pattinson.
Well, no, that's the latest one. But I mean, even in what's his face, the one that died, the Joker,
Heath Ledger.
I mean, Christ, that argument. Now he's like everyone's favorite Joker.
save it for our recording of the Screaming Boy podcast, coming soon to the Rattledge Broadcasting Network. Plug.
Hey, smooth as butter. Very good, lady. All right, listen. This thing is
I
gonna.
do something while I'm shutting the dog up.
This thing is gonna die on the vine. It's done. It's over. If it cracks 200 million, I'll be surprised. Next week is both Men in Black International and Shaft. We are going to review the former, not the latter. And no one's going to see Dark Phoenix anymore. It's done. The week after that is Toy Story, which beyond my comprehension is actually getting good reviews.
Wait, what is
Toy Story 4?
Okay, here's two things about that. One, I'll acknowledge, my reticence aside, the possibility exists that the trailers made this movie look much worse than it is. That's happened. Second point, I hate to say that there's a lot of critical bias, because mostly I think they just suck. The number of people who are going to go out on a limb, and even if Toy Story 4 is not good, are actually going to say that it's not good after, we've had near perfection for the other three movies. That's a small number who have the stones to actually say, yeah, this was a giant miss. Well, it'll wind up being, largely critically successful, because it would have to be so bad that there is no counter argument for anyone to actually say anything about it to the contrary.
Well, if it sucks, you'll hear it from us. That's for damn sure. We aren't going to hold back on it.
We will not. If we think it sucks, we will tell you it sucks.
But yeah, as far the whole point of this bit now is to be like, well, is there any way that that Dark Phoenix survives? No, it's got some fairly stiff competition in Men in Black International, and the following week is fucking Toy Story. Whoever's not seeing Toy Story is either going to go see Child's Play. So fuck it, it's done.
I'm seeing both that weekend.
And the week after that is a movie called Yesterday. And then right after that is Spider-Man. So yeah, this thing is dead. D-E-D, dead. With that said, it's time, it's Veda time.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Alrighty, here we go. I read through these earlier. I actually agree with a lot of these. That's the sad part of this whole bit.
I was going to say, how long has it been since we've reviewed a movie that we all agreed sucked, and then we actually had to go and try to defend it against the critics?
At this point, I might just find the ones that I think are the actual critics that are terrible, and just read you what they thought.
Would be okay with that.
Find the ones who can't come up with coherent sentences again.
Okay, so here's two good ones. Princess Weeks of the Mary Sue. Get her, Robert. Get her.
Wow, princess.
The crappy way they deal with Storm's powers make Jean Grey a plot device versus treating her like a real character. Sorry, let me read that again. Put the comma where it should be. The crappy way they deal with Storm's powers, comma, make Jean Grey a plot device versus treating her like a real character. Have fun.
I mean, what crappy way do they deal with Storm's powers? Hang on, why is that your takeaway? Did you go into this movie going, boy, I really need to see Aurora kick some ass? Or because if Aurora Storm does not actually show up and summon a hurricane to wipe out, the eastern seaboard of the United States, and instead just shoots lightning, which she can do. Why? Why is that? Why are you fixated on that point? I don't understand how that was your big takeaway. Was Storm's not as badass as I wanted her to be? Wah! I wanted her to be in a Where is her mohawk? Mohawk Storm.
Most of the characters were underwhelming. I think the only I think the only two who really got to show off their powers and have some fun with it was Magneto and Nightcrawler.
Yeah, Quicksilver has another Quicksilver scene.
Yeah, but it's so quick. And frankly, I'm glad they actually didn't do it again. I did not want another one of those. Hey, look what we can do with Quicksilver. It's been done.
John Winkler of the Young Folks. It would be cliche to say that Dark Phoenix burns out and fades away, but that would imply the movie was even alive to begin with.
Okay. If you have the presence of thought to craft that as a sentence, you know better. Like, you know better than to actually write that. How dare you?
Ruben Rosario of Punch Drunk Movies. It wants to spread its wings and glide above other comic book-based tentpoles, more juvenile storylines, but Dark Phoenix merely ekes out an uninspired mishmash of material considerably better handled in prior entries.
Shut up. Okay, whoa. Considerably better handled? You, my good friend, clearly did not see Last Stand in theaters like some of us did.
Yeah. It's
You
like,
clearly do not remember the stupidity that was, no, Jean Grey has always been an Omega-level mutant, and now she's going to off-screen disintegrate Cyclops and Professor X, and we're going to leave the entire school to Halle Berry because she's the only one that survived, and we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, Eddie.
Statistically, tug of war.
So here's a fresh one for you. Shiraz Farouk of Comic Book Debate. A darker tone and grounded focus amplify great moments, while a longer runtime and better villain would have elevated it further. Dark Phoenix honors the X franchise and neatly closes the First Class arc.
Okay.
No.
Couple of things. One, this movie's 2 hours long. A longer runtime would not have helped. Better management of said time absolutely would have helped. A stronger villain. I mean, what do you want? I mean, that's in all seriousness. Who would you have shoehorned in here?
Galactus.
You want to just...
The Shi'ar.
I mean, the Shi'ar would have made sense.
Everyone assumed that Jessica Chastain was playing Lilandra. It would have made... Okay, it would have made sense. Have the aliens be... the Phoenix Force has been destroying planets. We've come to make sure that we're coming to put an end to it. Go with that angle if you have to.
Here's what I would have done. I would have had Cyclops frozen and sent to Mojo, right? And then I would have had Jean Grey dress up in a bounty hunter's outfit, and she shows up to Mojo's to Mojo's castle, but she gets found out, see, when she's trying to free Cyclops. But in walks Wolverine, and he challenges Mojo, and he says, "Give me back my friends." And and then they all get thrown into a pit out in the sand, and Wolverine shakes his claws at Mojo and says, "You should have bargained, Mojo." That's how I would have handled the Dark Phoenix saga.
I was waiting to see how long you were going to take it before Robert lost his shit.
No. Every now and then, I just go, you know what? I'm going to let him hang himself with this rope. Sometimes I'll try to stop it for my own sanity. Other times, like, you know what? You want to wrap that? You want to tie that noose? You want to see how far you can drive before it gets yanked out from under you? You know what? You go for it.
My only hope is somebody hears something like that, isn't ready for it, and like spits a drink out or something. Like, if I've caused anyone to do a spit take with some of this stuff that I've said, that's my goal on this show.
And if you have, in fact, been reduced to spit takes by only Mark's antics, you can tweet him at Mark Radulich.
That's right.
Any hilarity you have gotten from anything I've done, I feel deep pity for your existence.
Okay. James Clay of Fresh Fiction. Another fresh review. Dark Phoenix is going to be one of the more decisive blockbusters this summer. It has many problems.
Whoa. Stop. I just need to clarify something because you may have misread that. Does he actually say decisive?
No, I'm sorry. That's my speech impediment. Divisive.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just say, wait a minute.
It has many problems, but finds success by diving deeper into the intimate relationships of its characters.
Oh, it doesn't. This is actually refuted by everything in the movie where they just kind of move haphazardly between scenes. But boy, that scene at the dinner table when Beast smacks the booze away from Xavier and goes, "No, Charles, you have to face what you did."
Complete again with Nicholas Hoult slipping in and out of his accent a few times. Just remember, folks, this guy could have been Batman.
Matt Looker of The Shiznit. This is a...
Wow.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not. theshiznit.co.uk. The Shiznit. This is a rotten review.
You got to feel real good putting that on your resume.
What publications have you worked for, sir? Well, I work for The Shiznit. If the films have, like the mutant gene, evolved over time, then this installment is an evolutionary misstep, like the duck-billed platypus or Vin Diesel.
Okay,
I need to protest on behalf of the platypus.
Yeah, like, I want to say something negative about that, but you likened Vin Diesel to the duck-billed platypus, and you know what? I'm okay with it.
Don't insult the duck-billed platypus.
I love the duck-billed platypus. It's God's greatest practical joke.
Thank you, Kevin Smith.
John Carlos Evans.
Wait, that's a Kevin Smith joke?
What?
You can shower.
I didn't know that. Hang on, I genuinely didn't know that. Is that
Have you
Kevin? I don't like Kevin Smith.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Have you ever seen Dogma?
No.
Go.
I don't like the works of Kevin Smith. Like.
So yeah, you've just now.
I'll explain after the show's over.
You've just now forced Robert to have to take a cold shower when this is done.
Yeah, that's not a joke. Like I feel dirty all of a sudden.
I'll explain the joke. I'll explain the scene to you after we were done recording. We've been going on long enough, and if you guys have to put up with any squeaking anymore, I think you're going to fly out to Kansas City and kill me.
John Carlos Evans of Black Nerd Problems. I want to offer my condolences and mutual bereavements to the true X-Men fans out there. You, I, we. None of us deserved whatever it was that just transpired on screen under the X-Men logo and brand as Dark Phoenix.
No argument.
I mean, I understand your point because I don't think it's invalid, but review the movie, man. Don't lament the state of your nerddom.
How have we gotten to the point where, Mark, you and I are saying this movie is crap, and Robert's the one who's saying there's still redeeming factors in it?
Because I approached it from a significantly more logical standpoint than either of you? Just taking a guess?
Well, no, I talked about the craft of it. Jesus. The craft of it was so bad.
I'm not defending it as, again, all that great, but if push came to shove, like would I watch this or X-Men Apocalypse again, I might actually choose this. I feel like if I rewatch this, I can at least get some laughs out of it, however unintentional they may be.
So I'm wondering if the Spanish translation of this had an effect on the audience to where this review makes any kind of sense. But Rolando Gallego of Escribiendo Cine. The perfect end to this saga. Full review in Spanish.
I'm really struggling with people who have kind of gone with, this is a perfect way to wrap up this version of, or this, telling of the X-Men, because I got to be honest. Here's how I can see that point being made. If you limit your focus to almost exclusively Xavier and Magneto, even then, I would argue that where they end amicably at the end of Age of Apocalypse is a better ending point for their characters than the ending point here. Even if Age of Apocalypse is so bad, I don't even think there's action value in rewatching Age of Apocalypse. I really don't. But if you limit your focus to just that, then okay, we've reached these two guys, these two damaged characters who strike up an unlikely bond, forge something together that is beautiful, have massive differences of perspective, break apart, clash over the years, and come back together to reconcile. Okay. Again, that last image of them setting up the chessboard at a cafe in Paris is about as correct a way to close out their involvement with the larger world as you're going to find.
Matt Brunson of Creative Loafing. We're going to end with this one.
Not this guy.
Yep, we're going to end with him because it's time. X-Men The Last Stand. It now looks as accomplished as Batman Begins. X-Men Apocalypse. It's been elevated to the status of Captain America the Winter Soldier.
Oh, shut the...
Wait, it gets better. No, wait, no, I'm not done. Even X-Men Origins Wolverine offers a whiff of Avengers Endgame quality by comparison.
The hell?
Okay. You lazy good-for-nothing hack. No. Not even by comparison. Even if I accepted your premise that this was the worst X-Men movie out of all of them, and I bear in mind I don't. Even if I accepted that premise, the notion that this movie is so bad as to elevate that other crap to, I believe, the actual best comic book movies that have been released, barring, certainly among the very best. Like, I don't want to get bogged down in specifics, because if I say the very best, then I have to go back and go, okay, well, no, wait. These three other movies actually qualify. So, among the very best. No, this movie is not so bad that it makes X3 watchable. Moreover, even if it were that bad, and it's bad, the fact that it is that bad, like, if all you're doing is lowering you've just lowered the bar so far, the goalposts don't actually move here. You're just going, well, boy howdy, I have just been burned on 80% of my body with this massive chemical, and that time I got stabbed through the eye with flaming hot needles, I sure would do that again. No, that is not how this works. You don't get to move goalposts and reassess something's quality because something else worse came along. By that logic, everything that predates The Room is cinematic gold.
All right, I said we were going to end with Matt Brunson, but I think I need to end with this one. It's a fresh review. Noah Berlatsky of NBC News Think, and Think is in all capital letters.
Because you just know, just to make sure you understand, we try to use our brains.
Kinberg took a famous narrative about how women can't control their own power and made it into a story about how they can.
Wow. I mean, I hate to be the last to revitalize the Last Jedi meme, but everything you just said was wrong. Amazing. Just absolutely amazing. Every word of that was incorrect. You almost deserve an award for being that wrong. I want to break out the Dr. Cox wrong song.
Please don't.
Yeah, you're the only one allowed to sing, right?
No, Sean does that bit. It's irritating when he does it. Don't you start.
Oh,
it's so appropriate here.
Scrubs every chance he gets.
But it's so appropriate in this situation.
I thought you were going with the Billy Madison. I award you no points. And
I almost did, but I hate Adam.
That's where I thought you were going too. Hang
on. Let me see if I can remember that whole speech off the top of my head. Wow, amazing. Everything you just said was wrong. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having heard you speak. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
There we go. Very good.
I still think I'm missing at least 2 lines.
All right. And that takes us to the end of this review. Tomorrow, Robert is with us again. We're going to be reviewing Oakley Dokley. Howdly toodly. tomorrow
And
night.
I'm actually going to argue with Mark about whether or not this is a better album than their first one.
It is.
I don't think it is.
You're wrong. And then, just like you're
That's
wrong.
your preview. You don't have to listen to the Metal Hammer of Doom anymore, everybody.
Good night, everybody. And then on Thursday, Sean and I will be doing an on trial, in theory, for X-Men 3: The Last Stand. It's better than you think.
It's not.
Next
It's
week,
worse.
Jesse and I review Book 1 of The Wire, Gotham Central. No, just Gotham Central. And we had Chris Armstrong on that show. We had a very good conversation, and wherein the question was asked, why didn't we do a review for Gotham? Because Gotham sucks and nobody but me watched it.
Yeah, that's accurate.
So we'll be back here again
I
next...
don't know how you single-handedly kept that flow to show it for as many seasons as you did, but Godspeed, man. You pulled it off.
Yep, I stuck with it to the end, every last shitty bit of it. Speaking of which, we'll be reviewing Men in Black International next week. Alexis, are you coming back next week, or are you taking the week off?
I might be taking the week off. We have a show coming up this weekend. I will get to that in my plug. I don't know if I'm going to have time to go see Men in Black before we record.
Okay, fair enough. So that's what we're doing next Tuesday. On Wednesday, the new Rammstein. But we'll all be back, God willing, for the Search for More Money, the Screaming Boy podcast, Toxic Fandoms. You all stink on ice. Speaking of stinking on ice, we're going to be looking at Heroes in Crisis by Tom King on source material.
Now that's a segue.
Damn it, Robert, quit stealing my lines.
Lexus will be back because she's our animation dream queen. We'll be looking at Toy Story 4 on Damn You Hollywood. We'll be reviewing the new Amon Amarth, Berserker. And then Jesse Starcher and I will be reviewing Black Mirror Season 5. We kick off July with Jessica Jones, Volume 2, The Secrets of Maria Hill. And then Robert and I will be reviewing Jessica Jones Season 3, the last of the red-hot Netflix Marvel shows. And then right before I go into the hospital, probably, more than likely, we'll be reviewing the new Upon a Burning Body on the Metal Hammer of Doom.
Is it... I just have to tell you this, Mark, because I want you to understand it's not coming from a place of hatred. I'm kind of hoping you go into the hospital early so I don't have to watch Jessica Jones.
It's not going to happen, sir. And even if I was going into the hospital before that, I'm doing podcasts from the hospital. I've already decided.
Yeah, but I'm going to use that as the excuse not to.
You're shit out of luck, pal. All right.
No. I have warned you. Like, I have made this public. This is not a joke. This is not a gimmick. If I get, 5 episodes into that show and it's as bad or worse than Season 2, I'm just stopping. I'm not putting myself through it.
Well, we'll just talk about what you saw. That's fine. Alexis, what con are you going to be at this weekend? Definitely not the one in Tampa.
I'm sorry, the tables are sold out. We'll try next year, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Hopefully by then we'll have a new place to live and a better couch for you to sleep on.
And hopefully you won't have cancer.
Hopefully.
Yeah. No, we're heading to the Greater Austin Comic-Con this coming week. Well, I was going to say we because while this was supposed to be my first big road trip with my kid's sister, she kind of forgot to tell me that just a few days ago she got her wisdom teeth pulled.
Oh, fun.
And one of them was indeed impacted.
Only one?
Only one. So she is currently laying down with ice packs all over her face, unable to talk. So she is not coming with me. So I got to go 10 hours to Austin all by myself.
What about your assistant?
Since I told her that I was taking my sister, she's got a part-time job now, and she's going to be working this weekend. So
Okay.
So, yeah, working that one by myself, but still looking forward to it. We worked Austin last year, and it was a huge success, so this should be a lot of fun. We got a bunch of new stuff on our stores. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. We have stores on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Okay, Robert, you're up.
Uh, my condolences to your kid sister. My bottom wisdom teeth, this is a horror story I have to tell on occasion, were fully bone impacted, completely developed, and entirely sideways. They were also done entirely by a dentist, and I was conscious for the whole thing. Yeah, I had I was not under general. I didn't even get gas. I got Novocaine. It took them so long to get finished with one of them, they had to numb the other side of my face again. That was fun. All right. As for me, again, Mark already mentioned that tomorrow I will be providing all the Simpsons trivia for the review of Oakley Dokley Howdly Toodly on the Metal Hammer of Doom, because if left to their own devices, Mark and Jesse would just kind of bumble around trying to figure out where these quotes come from, like two blind men stuck in a revolving door. I will be the one to safely guide them through the twists and turns of the lyrics chosen by the Nettle Band. There is no UFC event this Saturday, so I will have it to myself. I don't know what I'll do with it. Probably waste it. I'm good at that.
Ooh, wait a sec. Hang on. You're not busy? Well, there's Tyson Fury versus Tom Schwartz on ESPN Plus.
What was that?
Mark's desperate bid for content. That is the wild mating call of the podcaster going, fill these hours! Fill them!
That didn't sound like a purr. That sounded like... I don't know what that sounded like.
That
sounded like a walrus in heat.
I was going to say, I'm sure what it sounds like is uncomfortable. Come on, Robert. If I don't have any husbandly duties I need to be taking care of, like a party to go to or some shit like that, let's provide commentary for Tyson Fury versus Tom Schwartz.
I'm gonna regret this, but okay.
Look,
I actually do kind of enjoy Tyson Fury, and I have to link you something, Mark. Remind me after the not today, but I think tomorrow. There's a great two series videos on YouTube. One deals with Fury right up until it was released in the near aftermath, I seem to recall, of his breakdown and his relinquishing of the titles. And it deals a lot with his personal history and some of the history of his families and all that stuff, and it's really good. And then there's a follow-up that deals with the aftermath of the Wilder fight that I think you might enjoy.
Okay. I don't remember when I was told I had to go to a graduation party, so let me get that from my wife, and if it's not going to interfere with this fight, which
hang on. Who's graduating?
What do you care? You don't know him.
I'm about to make a moral stance. Who's graduating and from what?
College and my wife's neighbor's kid.
What degree?
I don't fucking know.
Okay, if you don't know that, then you shouldn't go. Just on moral grounds. B, I was about to go, if this is some stupid kid graduating from 4th to 5th grade, I'm going to throw, I hate that trend of, you've graduated from, elementary school. No, shut up. You graduate from high school, you graduate from college, that's it.
Wait a second.
I agree. I hate that right along the same lines as the gender reveal parties.
Okay, so it's 11:45 here in Florida, and I don't want to wake my wife up, and I want to get done with this, so more on this later.
You can, if we don't have a commentary on Friday, it's probably Mark's
Saturday.
fault. Whatever. I don't care. They're the same.
I have a feeling that I'm going to skip this 1 week, and when I come back for Toy Story 4, you both are going to be like, oh, thank God we needed you in here. Because you two are just going to kill each other while I'm gone in Austin.
Mark and I get along fine. We won't kill each other.
Nah.
Look, if he and I could survive, here's another mark off the old bingo card. If we can survive, doing the show regularly after the screaming match that was Age of Extinction.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Alternatively, if I come back for more abuse after Mark just browbeat me over Deadpool.
Yes, a show that was so uncomfortable. I had a friend call me and be like, "Who's the guy that you beat up over on the podcast? I don't know why you're doing podcasts with him." Yeah, the Age of Extinction one was. My wife came home to me screaming into a microphone.
That was so great.
Walked in the door from whatever he was doing with the kids and was like, "Who are you yelling at?" And I'm like, "I'm trying to tell this idiot that Age of Extinction's a masterpiece." And she's like, "Okay then." That was
In fairness, your wife knows I was right.
Well, yeah, my wife hates stuff like that. But but the other side of that was the night we couldn't get Blog Talk Radio to work either.
No, that was very true. Like we tried and then just went, screw it. We'll do the live hangouts and just go direct to YouTube.
Yep. All right.
I really am tempted to make the bingo cards now.
There you go. We were talking about like what we should put out there. Maybe we should just run with that, the Rattle Broadcasting Network, and then have our logo just be a bingo card with all of our various nonsense on it.
I keep telling you, I'm working on a new design for the company. If you'd freaking send me the info. Graphic designer can't do any graphic designing unless she knows what graphics to put in the design.
I'm about to tell you to just use your imagination. I'll accept whatever you do.
Fine, it's going to be Eddie with a microphone.
Perfect.
No. Hold on. Serious note. Like, come up with dog personalities for all of us and just all of the dogs barking into the microphone.
Chris, not Sheehan, the other Chris Bailey actually described, he was just like, what I like about you guys is the mix of personalities you have. And he's going through, he's like, Jesse's this and this one's this. He's like, and then there's Mark, who's kind of the in-your-face Howard Stern of the group. And I'm like, okay, did not see myself that way, but there you go.
What did he say about me?
He didn't.
Oh.
He might not have heard you on anything we've done yet, so.
I'm almost terrified to ask if he referenced me specifically.
We'll be back next week, everybody.
I knew it.
Mark, you shouldn't have said anything, dude.
All right, everyone. Be well, be safe, and I'm going to hit the right button this time.